What's up, gamers? Welcome to another edition of the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. This is episode number 163, and joining me tonight, Frankie Ayler, Ben Boyce, and Benderholt. Guys, how are we doing tonight?
What's going on? Well, thanks.
Thumbs up, and everyone's doing good. Awesome. Frankly, what's going on your end, dude?
Not a whole lot. Just grinding out with Ben to get that Starhawk Platinum before the trophies go, or the trophies go down. Trophies and servers go down next week. So yeah, that's been fun.
Awesome. Boyce, what's up with you?
Nothing, man. Just grinding with Frankie to get those Starhawk trophies before the service goes up. No,
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Nothing, man. Just taking it day by day. Had a busy week this week in terms of work. Haven't got too much gaming in, but making it work. And man, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I kind of miss the Hello Gamers right now. I think we gotta figure out a way to work that into the beginning there, man.
We're like I said, we didn't even have the proper opening yet. I wasn't able to knock that thing down yet, so I'm still working on that. We will get a proper intro to the show. Like I said, going live requires some changes, so I am still working on it. It's almost done. We will have that, and I'll try to get the Hello Gamers back in there. But Frankie covered it in the chat, so that works out great. Super Cooper's in there. What's up, buddy? But
I feel like kind of naked, like going into the show, and then I feel off.
Okay, would it help if I got naked?
Possibly. That's something we should try.
Okay, well, we'll have to age gate this show if we do.
Yeah,
that.
You guys, that'll be a two-man show for you guys. You do your thing.
Okay, fine. We'll see what happens.
Cooper's like, no.
Nope. Bender, what's going on with you, dude?
Not much, man. Just working, trying to stay busy and playing some games whenever I can.
Cool. Yeah, Melissa went to Grand Rapids tonight for her brother's birthday. Happy birthday, Nate. And so I am here alone with the kids. Daddy daycare overnight. I got the youngest one to bed early. It's the oldest boy. Now I told him, he's like, hey, look, dude, it's time for bed. He goes, okay. And, I get him tucked in. I turn the light off, and he goes, Daddy, leave the door open. And I'm just like, oh, dude, he always sleeps with the door shut, so I know he can hear me probably on the other side of the house over there. Now, if he comes downstairs, I'm not going to hear him. So if anybody sees him come in, don't listen to Frankie and don't listen to these guys. If you see him come in, let me know in the chat, because if I don't hear him and he comes up behind me and says something, it's going to scare the hell out of me. So if you see anybody,
why would you want to tell him? Why would you want to tell him now?
Oh my God, that's so brutal. That's so mean. So
we
anyways,
all want to see that happen.
I'm sure you guys do. All right, let's get into what we've been playing. I know, Ben, you said you haven't been playing a lot. We just did Destiny 2 this week. We did Iron Banner, put some time in with that. Had some success later on. We got rocked early, but we bounced back and had a nice little go at it, earned some points, and earned some packages. So that went well.
That night just spanned the gamut. I mean, we started off just getting our asses handed to us. It was one of those matches where Shaxx had to call it, or Saladin had to call it. It was like, yeah, this is a route.
Yeah.
And then it was funny because it just slowly built. So our next match, we got a little bit closer. Still got waxed. The next match was close. Still lost. Next one, we pulled off a tight victory. The match after that, we just obliterated the competition. It was funny because we actually called it as we were going on. We're like, man, this night has been like this up and down roller coaster, and we've just slowly gotten better. So it was like, you know what, this next match, we're probably just gonna wipe the floor with these guys, and we did.
Yeah.
It was an absolute dominant performance in that match. So we saw it all that night. It was fun though.
Yeah, we did well that night, and then I jumped on last night and played with JD and his buddy Flaro, and dude, it was just 4 straight games of just annihilation. We were destroying people, and that felt really, really good. But obviously, all those packages went towards my Xbox One character. Haven't been able to. It's really hard to balance, how much you're gonna do on each platform and when you're gonna get on. Sunday is typically when I edit. That's when I would do the PC version. But I got to figure it out. When I'll be able to squeeze it in. But man, Iron Banner was hot this week, dude. It was exciting. It's fun. Iron Banner is always a good time. So we did that. But and boys, quickly talk about what you did for the Tuesday Night Indie Spotlight, man.
Yeah, so coming out of E3, it's always a little bit slower in terms of the game releases. It takes a couple of weeks for everything to get back on track, get back into the swing of things. Generally, publishers just avoid the kind of weeks around E3. So there wasn't a really any new titles that came out last week that were speaking to us, but we had a Wizard of Legend sitting on deck, and it was a
Yes.
game that Brent, you and I had planned to do a co-op video for at some point. We just hadn't gotten around to it, so I haven't even played Wizard of Legend, or I hadn't played it prior to the spotlight. So I was like, you know what, this game's still pretty new, came out a couple weeks ago. Been really wanting to fire this one up and see what it's all about. So let's give it a go tonight on the indie spotlight. So on Tuesday we fired up Wizard of Legend, and I really liked the game. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's very addicting. It's interesting too because it starts you off in this like RPG town. When you jump into the game, I was expecting this to just be like a balls to the wall action experience, but you actually jump in there. You start in this town. You're talking to characters. You're learning about the world. You're kind of getting the basics of the game down, and then after that, you get just dropped right into the heart of the game, which is this basically just gauntlet of a dungeon that you have to try and make your way through. It's incredibly challenging. Even the first stage is difficult. So this is a tough game right from the get-go. It's a roguelike. So once you die, you're right back to square one and jumping back into that dungeon. You do keep some of the spells and things that you've managed to unlock throughout the world. So there is an element of progression to the game. But the combat, like I said, is very fast-paced, very fun. Has almost a Dark Souls feel to it in terms of the way you kind of stick and move and dodge enemies. And each enemy has a particular pattern that you've got to look out for and take advantage of when you can strike and when their weaknesses are. But it's much faster-paced than Dark Souls, though. So it's even though you play as this wizard, you're this mage. You're very agile. You're very quick with your moves. You have some really cool special moves at your disposal. Different fire abilities and wind abilities. You got these ultimate moves that you can use as well, which do a lot of damage to the enemies. The game's got this really cool, pixel art style as well. So it all looks really neat in motion. And man, as I was playing through it, I was really getting into it. I was like, all right, made it a little bit farther, beat that boss. I got to this stage. All right, let's jump back in and see how far we can get. And I love that there's a percentage that ticks down as you're going through the map, and it shows you how much of the map you've uncovered as you're moving through the stages there. So I really like that as somebody who likes to see 100% and percentages and all that kind of like weird OCD stuff. Like I like to go into the stage and like, all right, man, 99%, like what part of the map haven't I uncovered yet? And then run around, find that, uncover it, move on to the next stage. So I liked the overall package of Wizard of Legend. I definitely want to get in there and play some more. Definitely want to give it a whirl cooperatively. It seems like it's going to be a blast cooperatively. It is challenging, so I feel like it is going to thrive as a co-op experience. But I was pleasantly surprised by Wizard of Legend. It looked really cool, and I thought it would be fun. But I really liked what I played of that game, and it's recommended for those of you that like dungeon crawlers, that like fast-paced action games, that like roguelites. I think there's going to be something in here that you're going to be able to sink your teeth into.
Awesome. Yeah, we will definitely give because it's not online co-op, it's local co-op only, but we'll use share play on the PlayStation 4 and try to show you guys what it's like played cooperatively, because I played a little bit of it as well. I can only imagine it's very, very fun that way as well. So good stuff there. Check out that video. It's on our YouTube channel in the Tuesday Night Indie Spotlight playlist, Wizard of Legend. All right, Benner, you play anything this week?
Yeah, I've been jumping back into Xenoblade Chronicles 2. With, since Octopath Traveler comes out next month, I was like, man, I need to beat this game before Octopath comes out. Otherwise, I'm never going to beat it. So I've been hitting it real hard this week. Getting pretty close. I think there's 10 chapters I looked up, and I'm on chapter 9. So getting there, pretty close. There is another game that I played that I haven't talked about on the show yet. I got West of Loathing on the Switch. Played about 4 hours of it, and I really like that game. I think you guys would like it too. It's that a black and white like stick figure art style game. It's like an RPG, but the people are calling it an RPG. At least it has some RPG elements, but to me, it also plays a lot like an adventure game. Because, you're talking to different characters, you're exploring the town, you're picking up random objects that you don't know what to do with yet, and then you might find a use for them later. So that's very adventure-like in that way. And, you're completing different objectives for people. There is some turn-based RPG combat-like elements to it, too. So, you've got a partner that you have with you, and you both fight whatever enemies come along. There's different types. There's different classes you can choose from when you start the game. The class I chose is Cowpuncher. And I forget what the other two were. There's 3 classes total, but I forget what the other 2 were. But I just thought Cowpuncher sounded hilarious, so I chose that one. And there's, when you start the game, before you even moved, to the west, you you're in this town and you have to choose a partner. So
Mhm.
like there's like 3 different people you can choose from. So I feel like that kind of changes the way the game plays out. So there's a lot of different story paths and stuff like that. But it's really well written. It's really hilarious. The dialogue and the way things it describes things that you're doing. So you like go up and examine something, and it's all text and it describes it. But just the way it's written, it's really funny. I really enjoyed it so far. So I'm definitely, after I beat Xenoblade, if there's some time before Octopath comes out, I'm definitely going to get back into West of Loathing, play a little bit more of it. But it's really cool. I like that game a lot.
I've been really curious about that game since Frankie talked about it. It looked like a hell of a lot of fun. It looked really cool. So I'm glad to hear that it's kind of delivering on that promise. So it looked very promising. It looks awesome. I'll be looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it later on as you play more of it.
Dude,
Franklin, go ahead.
if I take anything from this episode, it's Cow Puncher. So I've written that down, and I'll be downloading that game immediately.
Hashtag Cow Puncher. Got it.
Yep.
Let's get it started. All right, Franklin, I know you've been playing quite a bit, and then we'll get into a spotlight titles, but let's talk about what you've been playing, buddy.
All right, so super briefly, I just want to mention I have finally finished Vampire. I'm in the middle of writing my review, so look for that on the site. Hopefully sometime this week. I'm going to try to get that wrapped up this weekend, Monday-ish, so hopefully we get it on the site within the next week or so. Otherwise, I finally finished Battle Chasers Night War.
Yes.
So this came out on the Switch, and I kind of saw this as, okay, like they have to be done updating this game by now. They've probably made all the changes they're going to, so this is kind of, I'm seeing the final definitive version of Battle Chasers, right? So I'm actually going to go back and redo my review because they changed so much about it that the flow of the game is different. The way a lot of the previous armor, the weapons, all that stuff, they got rid of the level requirement to equip things. So if you get something that's like a level 24, piece of gear or weapon, and your character's level 18, you can still equip it. So, sorry. So I it's funny because making my way back through it on the Switch, no crashes, no weird glitches, no problems at all. So super happy with that. On top of that, and I partially put this because I came into this game knowing what I was doing, understanding the different roles of the different characters, how to use your perks, and knowing you can go back and change those at any time. So as you unlock more of your skill tree, it's beneficial to constantly go in there, change it around to make that each character kind of play to how you prefer using them. So, and like for example, for me, Calibretto, he's kind of like the healer, so you can put stats into his healing abilities, being able to heal more. You can raise his haste so that he, the higher their haste, the quicker they attack in the attack order. So but the funny thing was, I playing back through it, I had gotten up to where I lost my save file. It's probably about 38 hours in when I lost my file, and I got back there at about 32 hours this time. So I was actually in the last dungeon at the time that I had initially lost. So I did spend a little more time kind of going back and looking for different weapon parts and grinding out the like the most wanted monsters, the bestiaries, because those are cool. There was one in particular who's, if anyone's played Darksiders, you might remember Wicked K. He's this gentlemanly skeleton. He fights you. So they have a character kind of similar to him at the end of this list that's level 28, and it's great because he builds up his burst meter, and when he uses his burst meter, he's basically like man, why am I blanking on his name? Family Guy Killington.
Buzz Killington.
Buzz Killington. Yeah. So he literally just sits there telling you this super boring story and just damages the crap out of your characters. So that was freaking hilarious. But exactly. It's like every time they sigh, they lose 200 hit points. I'm like, my God. And he's like rambling on for about a minute and a half. I'm like, oh my God. So, but yeah, so I finished the game in about 45 hours. Loved every minute of it. Can't wait to go back on the PS4. I did actually fire it up on the Xbox too because it got X enhanced. Got the 4K TV out in the front room. Oh my God, that is a beautiful looking game on a 4K display. So, highly recommend Battle Chasers. Again, that's a review I'm going to go back and revise, update, and finally issue a score to at some point, hopefully the next week or two. So look forward to that.
Oh yeah.
And I also started Shovel Knight finally. It's a game, I've been told I need to play. So thank you to those on Twitter who voted because I couldn't decide where to go after Vampire and Battle Chasers were wrapped up. So I started Shovel Knight. I don't think I'm too far in. I'm at the point where I could fight Plague Knight. What was it? Not King Knight, but Mole Knight, and there's another one.
Treasure Knight.
Yeah, Treasure Knight. So it's a really fun game. Love it. So looking forward to playing more of that. And the last thing that I dabbled with was the beta for the Crew 2. So this is actually coming out this week. So they're running an open beta. It ends tomorrow. So if you're listening to this now, you can go download it on Xbox One or PlayStation 4. I'm kind of leaning towards picking it up, honestly. The first one, all I played of the first one was the beta initially, and the driving controls felt really floaty, and I couldn't get into it at all. This time around, the controls feel a little more refined. It feels more along the line of like the test drive games to me. So like it's kind of that feeling in the driving and drifting and whatnot. The boat racing is kind of strange because it didn't feel like no matter what I was doing, I wasn't catching up to anybody. And it's also a different mindset. You don't want to be in the I don't know what you call. I'm not a boating person, so I don't know what you call the
wake.
drag.
The wake.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. So if you're in the wake of the boat in front of you, it slows you down. And the other weird thing is I got to mess around with the flying in the game, and the controls for that are also very strange. It's got inverted controls, so down is up, but also to turn, you want to angle the plane, and then you're kind of turning and going like up and down to steer the plane. It's very strange. So it's going to take me a while to get used to that. And I also did a couple off-road races. A lot of fun, surprisingly. So that's actually on my radar now. I was going to pass on it because I'm not a huge fan of the Crew. None of you guys got to try this out yet, have you?
I have not yet.
I downloaded it. Didn't get a chance to play it today, though. Hopefully, maybe get into it tomorrow a little bit.
Gotcha. Yeah. I recommend trying it out. I mean, if any of you guys are going to pick it up, I'll probably grab it too. But I know if you get the gold edition, it's out on Tuesday. Otherwise, it's a Friday release. Don't know why you'd want to get the gold edition to play it on Tuesday, but whatever.
I actually think I have the gold edition. Because
There we go.
no, this is not the typical story. But there was a price mistake on Amazon like a long time ago. This was
Oh
this was
yeah.
maybe almost a year ago. But they ended up putting the ultimate edition of the game, or the gold edition, whatever it's called, up for like $50.
Yeah.
When it was $110 or whatever the normal
That's
cost of it is. So I slid in and reserved one on that. So I think I've got that coming for the low price of $50. So I guess I'll have the Crew.
All right. Cool.
Not
Maybe I'll
surprising
pick it up.
anybody.
It's for a good reason.
Hey, Frank, I just want to let you know, Fanboy Tone over on Twitch, he got excited when you mentioned Darksiders. He said it's the best game, and he's also a big fan of Battle Chasers. So you definitely struck a chord there. And Cooper said he played the closed beta a while ago, and he really enjoyed it, and he pre-ordered it about a year ago as well, boys. So maybe he got Cooper just said he got the same thing, Pix. So you guys got it on
Smart
that
man.
pricing mistake. Good job.
On the topic of Darksiders, really quick, I just wanted to mention that that Gameumentary, I think that's the Twitter account, but they did a series. Like they went on Darksiders, they did one on Airship Syndicate, they did one on Gunfire Games. So they're basically like interviewing like people at the studio and whatnot. So they released all those, and the Gunfire Games one just came out on Tuesdays. So it's about an hour long over on their YouTube channel. So I'd recommend checking that out. It's really cool.
Very nice. Very nice. Cool. Thank you, Franklin. And all right, let's hop in to the spotlight titles for this week.
All right, Brent, I want to start with you, man, because the game that you have on your radar here, I'm very curious about. So I know Jamie's really big on Rainbow Moon, my buddy at work, and he's been asking me about this game for the past 3 months. Every single week is like, dude, they posted it yet? They said summer. So Rainbow Sky is finally coming out. This is awesome because it's a cross-buy title between the PS4, PS Vita, and the PS3.
Yep.
So what exactly is drawing you to this one? I kind of figured that you were a fan of Rainbow Moon. What are you looking forward to in the sequel?
Yeah, I am really excited for this game. Actually, Rainbow Moon was a very, very fun tactical, turn-based RPG, and Rainbow Skies, which is kind of like an indirect sequel, is coming out this week. And this is turn-based battles, exploration, character development, all sorts of stuff. There's monster breeding in this one. And again, it's a very strong narrative. It's a long game. They mentioned that you can play this game if you focus on the campaign. You can get through it in about 30 to 40 hours. But if you're a completionist, it's going to take you well over 100 hours. SideQuest Studios, that's the developer behind this game. They're implementing some exciting new features, which were actually not a part of the original concept. They're adding in deep in-game award systems that track trophy and general awards. And they also mentioned that they've added a ton of end-game content, including ultimate weapons and gear that you can go out and try to earn. Tons of optional bosses and enemies, hunting, fishing, lottery, and again, monster breeding. So this is going to be a very big game. This is the game they take very seriously. SideQuest Studios. This is like their baby. This is something they take a lot of pride in. Again, Rainbow Moon reviewed very well. A lot of people really enjoyed this game. So the fact that this sequel is coming out, this is going to be a big title. But yeah, as you mentioned, Frankie, cross-buy, cross-save, 60 FPS across all platforms, 40 trophies with a platinum. This is a game I'm picking up for sure. I'm really excited about the fact that I can play this on the Vita. I'll probably play it primarily on the Vita just because the Rainbow Moon was so good on the Vita. This game's going to be excellent on the Vita, but the fact that you can cross-save it to your PS4 when you get home, continue playing continue playing through the game, I am extremely, extremely excited for this game. It's going to be awesome, dude.
Nice. Yeah, I know. I think it's East Asia Soft, but they've been doing physical releases, kind of competing with Limited Run over on Play Asia. So if you're a fan of physical games, they're doing a physical version of that, so you can head over there, pick that up for the PS4. I'm pretty sure they did one for the Vita as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I know a lot of people are excited about that one, so you can look for that one on Tuesday.
They've been developing that one for a while, right, Brent?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I mean, they started this just after the first one released in 2012. So this has been 4 or 5 years in development.
Yeah.
Yeah. So clearly that thing's probably spit polished to a shine at this point.
I expect this thing to run very, very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been talking up their performance across the board on it for months now, so I know they're very, very proud of it, so it bodes well for it. Bender, I want to come to you next. So this title was on your favorite games that you saw at E3. It wasn't quite the announcement of Life is Strange 2 that you're wanting, but it's kind of a toe in those waters. And this game, of course, is The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit that'll be available on PS4 and Xbox One for free on Tuesday. Bender, tell me about this game. Why are you excited about it?
I'm excited about Captain Spirit because I loved Life is Strange. I think Don't Nod did a fantastic job with their narrative in that game. So they've obviously established themselves as great storytellers. So I think that they're gonna continue that with this game. I mean, they're calling it just like a free demo type of thing, so I don't expect it to be super long, but the fact that it's free is cool. You'll be able to jump right in. But it's also going to be linked to Life is Strange 2 in some way. So you're going to be able to you're playing as this 10-year-old boy, and he's got this alter ego that he imagines himself as a superhero named Captain Spirit. So it's definitely not going to be the most lighthearted thing. I don't think. I think there's definitely going to be some serious issues or just some serious emotional weight to the story as well, because that's kind of what they do, or at least with the Life is Strange universe, that's kind of what they do with those stories. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they develop this and how in depth they're going to get to it, and it'll kind of whet our appetite for Life is Strange 2 whenever it comes out. But and I was just looking at the PlayStation blog. It also says that some of your choices and actions will link to your Life is Strange 2 experience. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. So somehow the things you decide to do in this game is going to affect what happens in the next game. So that's pretty cool. So kind of just very intrigued to see what this game's going to be all about, and I look forward to seeing what the story is going to be like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I you and I played through Life is Strange, the first one. I still have to finish Before the Storm someday. But no, I'm excited to see what they do with Life is Strange 2. It sounds like they're, obviously very willing to, kind of venture outside of Chloe and Max, and there's going to be this grander Life is Strange universe. So I'm curious about this. I'm looking forward to checking this out on Tuesday. So I think that's a solid pick for this list bender.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I want to talk about, actually, it's not necessarily a new game, but it's a DLC. I've been playing a lot on the Switch lately, so Battle Chasers was the big one that I've been chipping away at on there. So I'm also working on Shovel Knight, Hollow Knight, and I've been sitting on Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle now for a year, I think, right? I think that came out last June.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been meaning to play it, but at the same time, it's kind of been like, oh yeah, I'll get to it at some point, but and it's at the season pass, and we've known about this Donkey Kong DLC for a long time now, probably like almost a year, right? It's been a while. They announced this a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So part of me was just kind of waiting, because that's what I tend to use as an excuse more than anything. Just I'll wait for that DLC that I really want to play that I probably won't get to. But this time, it's Donkey Kong. I love Donkey Kong. So the Donkey Kong Adventure expansion for Mario Rabbids will be out on Tuesday for the Switch. If you have the season pass, it's free. Otherwise, it's $14.99, which I think the season pass is $20, and this seems to be the main thing in that season pass that I know I'm interested. So I think it's got 4 new levels to it. Donkey Kong, Mario doesn't seem to be involved in this one at all. This one's centered exclusively around Donkey Kong, which I think is great. He brings kind of like a new layer of strategy to the game, so you can pick up, your partners and throw them to give them more of an advantage to do more damage. And I'm a huge Donkey Kong fan, so the fact that somebody's doing something with Donkey Kong is enough to make me happy and put that thing on my radar. So that's probably going to be my tipping point to finally start playing Mario Rabbids. So I just hope that I can jump into this expansion without having played it at all.
Right.
Because I kind of just want to start there and then go into the regular game. But very excited about that. So that'll be available on the Switch on Tuesday. And lastly, Ben, I want to come to you. I know this is a release you were very excited about when it was announced a couple months ago now. This will be coming to the Switch, Xbox One, PlayStation 4. If you purchase it on the PS4, actually, you get a free upgrade to the deluxe edition. So it comes with, a theme, I think some avatars, 20-track soundtrack sampler.
Ooh.
That game, of course, is Luminous Remastered. Boys, tell me about this game. I am not familiar with this one at all.
I'm a big fan of Lumines, so I was introduced to this game, the very first one on the PSP. That's where I kind of fell in love with the series. Played a lot of it on that platform. It was very addicting. It's got this just engrossing mix of this just like rocking soundtrack and puzzle game mechanics. Something like a line clearing type of a game. It's not exactly like Tetris, but it's got that kind of a feel to it. But yeah, just the way it mixes with music, much in the way that is it Mizuguchi? Hopefully I'm saying his name right. But much in the way all of his games like Rez and what they're doing with Tetris Effect, how all that stuff kind of plays on music as well as the gameplay. That really started, or that kind of marriage between the two. They really started to explore that with Luminous. So to see Luminous remastered coming over to these new platforms is really exciting. It's got one of my all-time favorite VGM tracks on it in Shining. So I'm looking forward to hearing that again and playing through that stage. But yeah, it's just a really, really fun puzzle game, and the soundtrack is just absolutely awesome. So it's just one of those games where you just sit down, you get involved in it. It's addicting, and then with the music playing, you just get in this trance, and you're just engrossed in the game at that point. There were some different modes in the game originally. There was like a puzzle mode where you had to put pieces together in a certain way to create a picture. I remember that being really fun. So I imagine that stuff's going to come over as well. But yeah, being able to sit down, play this remastered, just to have this game back in the rotation is going to be really exciting. So if you're a fan of puzzle games, if you're a fan of music and games, there is no better marriage of the two than Lumines from what I've played.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm probably gonna grab it on the Switch. I think it's up for pre-order now, so it's $14.99. Should buy it on the PlayStation though. I do want the soundtrack.
Yeah, 20 tracks is the sampler.
Yeah.
I wonder how big the actual soundtrack is. But yeah, to get 20 tracks in that game is awesome though, because that game's got an incredible soundtrack. So that's pretty wicked.
Cool. That's the same developer for that Tetris Effect, right?
Yep, same one for Tetris Effect, same one Res Infinite, every Extend Extra. Like
Damn.
these guys have done all these kind of games. So yeah, so it's Luminous is really, really good.
Awesome. Brent, that's all I got for new releases, man.
Cool. Boyce, do you want to quick talk about what you're going to do for this week's Indie Spotlight?
Yeah, we'll touch on that really quick. So on Tuesday, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the YouTube channel, we're going to fire up the Indie Spotlight, and we're going to feature Next Up Hero. So this is a very, very interesting looking roguelike dungeon crawler with a twist. So apparently, from what I can gather, I haven't played the game yet, but from it's been in early access for a little while, and from what they break down in the videos for the game, every time you die in this game, you leave behind like a body, and if you're able to successfully return to that body, you can kind of resurrect it as a ghost and add it to your party. So this game is really tough. It's got a really cool cartoony art style too. It's got like a cell shaded animated kind of look to it, which looks great. But every time you arrive at one of your fallen bodies and you resurrect it, you add it as a ghost to your party, so you can tackle these challenging enemies and challenging stages with a little more firepower than you had previously. And with the amount of times you die in this game, you're going to amass a huge army as you continue to die and you continue to resurrect your body. So it sounds like a really, really neat take on the roguelike. And, at some point, I'm sure I'm going to die a whole bunch of times and have 50 ghosts following me around and tackling some of these large enemies. So it sounds like a cool concept. Really looking forward to playing it. We'll feature that on the channel here on Tuesday, 10 p.m. Eastern on the Indie Spotlight. So definitely come on over, hang out with us, chat, all that fun stuff. We'll have a good time.
Sweet. Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to check this out, man. You say die 50 times. I'm going to guess that'll be on the tutorial level. Like kind of just walking you through stuff.
It's possible.
Yeah, that's possible. Hopefully there's a trophy for that. So that game looks really, really cool. That should be a lot of fun to watch. So make sure you tune in to that Tuesday night right here on YouTube. Short Pause Gaming. Mm-hmm. Next Up Hero will be the game we'll be featuring. All right, guys, let's hop into the news. We had some stuff, not a terribly busy week, but there was some good stuff littered throughout the week, some good stuff to talk about. And the first thing we're going to talk about here is some news that came out about Crackdown 3, an interesting story that came out about the series producer and co-developer, and apparently they're no longer on the project, which is kind of shocking. But Xbox had Phil Spencer, a couple years ago, he talked about how series creator David Jones's CloudGen company is doing a lot of the technology behind Crackdown. That's what Phil Spencer said. But earlier this year, Fortnite creator Epic Games announced that it had acquired CloudGen. Jones left the creative director role and at the project's co-developer Regent Game. Is it Regent? Help me out with this.
I think it's is it Reagent?
Reagent sounds good.
Yeah,
Reagent. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Reagent Games, and with it, Crackdown 3 to take the role of director of cloud and esports strategies at Epic. So last week at E3, Kotaku spoke with Microsoft Studios head Matt Booty about the status of the destruction mode, which is obviously the big part of the multiplayer that they talked about. We haven't seen anything of that since 2015. It's been a long time since we've heard about this the multiplayer, which is supposed to be a huge part of this game. Booty confirmed that the destruction-heavy online multiplayer mode remains in development. This is what he had to say. It is still part of Crackdown 3, said Booty. We're not showing a lot of details about that here. We'll have more to show as the year goes on. Booty was even less clear on which cloud tools will power the mode. Here's what he had to say. We're super lucky as part of Microsoft that we get to work so closely with the Xbox platform team, that the cloud shows up in all of our games in pretty exciting ways. Over time, things will evolve, and I can't really speak to what's in the game, but these days with a game big like that, we're very fortunate to have access to industry-leading cloud technology. Asked for clarity on whether or not this meant CloudGen and Microsoft's own cloud tools would power the mode, Booty responded, I'm not going to get into the actual technical breakdown. Let's just say that we've got access to great infrastructure, and the game's got some great tech in it, and we're going to put those two together in the way that makes the most sense. But then he also confirmed that Microsoft is no longer working with Jones or Reagent Games on Crackdown 3. Quote, we're just working with Sumo Digital right now. That's our main development partner. And as you know, I'm sure you know, any game has got a number of folks that come in to help with this content and some development. But Sumo's our main. Sumo is our main partner on Crackdown 3. They sent emails and stuff to Regent but got no answer. The company's Twitter account hasn't posted anything since 2017, which was ironically a job listing for Crackdown 3 for a software engineer. That the link that was in that tweet is now dead, as is the rest of the company's website. So, Boyce, I want to come to you on this, man. Is this concerning for Crackdown 3? I mean, when Phil talked about this a couple years ago, I mean, CloudGen was the big dog. This was going to power the multiplayer part of Crackdown 3, the mode that we haven't seen in 3 years, dude. What's your take on this?
Boy, I mean, this is just the latest in a string of concerning things with Crackdown 3. Like we talked about at the, when we saw the game at E3 was just not the reveal that we were looking for, or the reappearance that we were looking for from that game at E3. It was just kind of a quick, let's get this on the stage and move on. And yeah, just some of the comments that Booty was making here, like, yeah, we're not talking about the technology. Yeah, we don't want to talk about like exactly what's doing the game, and we're not talking about or showing what's in the multiplayer. It just, this game is supposed to come out in February. So a lot of this stuff is probably or should be finalized at this point in terms of what they're doing. So, we never got that beta that they originally talked about with the game. We haven't seen anything from the multiplayer side of this. Now, Frankie, wasn't Reagent, weren't they the multiplayer development side of this? So with them like completely out of the picture now, I wonder if that's even a part of the game at this point. So, could multiplayer just be completely off the table with this game? I know Booty said that they're still working on it, but I would have to imagine that this is far different than the original vision that they were put forth in front of us, or that they originally wanted this game to be. So I just still get the feeling at this point like Microsoft is just like, can we please just get this game out of the door and just be done with this, and whatever becomes of this game, and then we can move on with our lives. But this has clearly been a troubled development game. I can't help but wonder if this game was maybe trying to be a bit too ambitious, a little bit ahead of its time with what they wanted to do with the cloud and everything that went into the original reveal for this game. It just hasn't worked out or been able to come to fruition. So I have no idea what this game's going to look like when it actually comes out. But once again, Brent, just more concerning stuff from Crackdown. I mean, it's normal over the course of development to have things happen here and there, but there's been a lot of stuff that's been impeding the development of Crackdown 3. And yeah, I don't know what to think about the game at this point.
Man, I tell you what, Fanboy Tone and Twitch, he's a huge fan of the Crackdown games. And he even thinks this is going to be a bust. He's deeply concerned about this. Frankie, your take on what we heard from Booty here?
Crackdown 3 I've been concerned about for a long time now, and Microsoft has not done a single thing to reassure me that this game's going to be any good. You're going to delay it, and then of course, Microsoft's not going to come out in a PR thing and say, oh yeah, we're delaying it because this game's a freaking mess. Like, they're not going to say that, right? They're going to say, oh, we're delaying it so we can put more resources into polishing it to the experience that it deserves to be and all this other crap. But, like, we still haven't really seen any actual gameplay of this at E3. It's just a trailer. And, hey, look, we got Terry Crews, right? So, that's all anyone talks about is, awesome, Terry Crews is in this. Hell yeah. That's great. But why haven't we seen any extended gameplay of this outside of the stuff that they've, streamed from whatever events that's been a complete disaster? Everything we've seen of this game has just been a train wreck. So the thing is, like, the whole David Jones thing, and people were excited that he was back for this game, but he's always been with, Reagent and the CloudGen thing. So he was never working on the single player portion of this. That's always been Sumo Digital as far as we know. So that's another thing that's always confused me, because people hate Crackdown 2, yet the team that was primarily, responsible for it, they're the ones working on this multiplayer part that everyone's excited about. So again, that's the multiplayer part. That's not the single player story. It's not, any of the offline stuff that a lot of us are probably going to, mess around with first. So I don't know, just this entire thing with this game since it's been announced has been really confusing to me, because, we didn't even realize until a couple of years ago that there were 2 developers working on this game. It wasn't even, I think it was last year at E3 you find out that Sumo Digital is working on the single player part. So it just, the whole thing has been such a mess already. And now bringing this in, either, like Boyce mentioned, that thing has to have either been scrapped or it's done, and they are actually waiting on Sumo Digital. But again, I would think if it's done that they would be trying out to, like, hey, let's get that beta set up, right? Like, if it's done, that's what my guess is. But if the Reagent's walking away and this was the prime tech powering this cloud version of the multiplayer, that's a huge concern.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely concerned with that. Bender, any thoughts on that, man? I mean, the fact that the Cloud Gin and Reagent Games and David Jones, these guys were supposed to be working on what was supposed to be the most exciting part of Crackdown 3, this multiplayer portion of it, and they're all gone. And I gotta wonder, dude, do you think that's a concern for Sumo Digital? They have to take on the multiplayer portion now? I mean, they were tasked with the single player. Now they're like, hey, can you guys also bang out the rest of this multiplayer? I mean, does Sumo Digital even have much experience with multiplayer, Frankie? I have no idea. But Bender, what's your take on this stuff?
I'm kind of that's the same mindset as Frankie. I'm just kind of worried about this game overall. It just seems like one thing after another keeps happening, or we keep hearing about it's hitting all these different roadblocks and everything. And it's just been so long in development that I'm just worried that they're just gonna cancel it, or either that or it'll come out. It just won't be any good. Hopefully I'm wrong, but it's just very concerning to see all these things happening, and this game just seems to have a very troubled development cycle.
That's why they're releasing it on February 22nd.
Gets lost in the shuffle. Fanboy Tone has jokes, man. He said maybe they should just scale bound it, and then the other one is maybe get 2 Forza games out a year instead of just one to make up for it. Stop it, Tone.
Nice.
So yeah, so very interesting take on this, boys. I again, like when you see them bring out Terry Crews and Terry Crews does his thing on the stage, you kind of get hyped for, like, man, I really hope this is good, but you still have just it burned in your memory are those terrible demos with people that don't even play games. Like, wasn't Alan Tudyk one of the people? And it was just an utter disaster. He was a disaster.
That was the one where Major Nelson was down on it, and he was trying to get excited about the 2 cars driving. Or it might even have been 3 cars were on top of each other, just driving down the street. It was that stream was an absolute disaster.
That thing was just a hot mess, and that's unfortunate because and so that's the single player stuff. We haven't seen anything from the multiplayer, and that is deeply concerning. I mean, we're what 7-8 months from launch. And we just passed E3, and they're not showing off what was hyped up as the biggest part of this game was the multiplayer. And the fact that the original creator and the people were really excited that he was on board, he's no longer a part of the project. I am definitely concerned, and I can't help but wonder if what we're going to get when Crackdown 3 launches is just the single player portion of it, with promise of the multiplayer portion being added later on. I mean, if we haven't seen anything yet, I think that's what we're going to get. I think we're going to get a single player only. It's going to be in Game Pass, so anyone can just pick it up, play the single player. You don't have to charge people $60. I mean, they'll charge $60 for it, but everyone's going to go the Game Pass route, play through the single player with the promise of multiplayer later. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know when else they're going to show this thing off. I mean, Gamescom or Paris Games Week, is that where they're going to show off the multiplayer? I feel like E3 was the big stage for that. We don't have anything on this game, dude, and that's very concerning. Very, very concerning.
I think that's what it comes down to, man. Like, if this was a project that Microsoft was excited about, 7-8 months out from release, like, we'd be hearing about this stuff. We'd be seeing the multiplayer portion of it. They would be talking about it. They would have done more at E3 than just put Terry Crews on the stage and then quickly move on to the next game. Like, they would be talking about Crackdown if this was something that they were like jumping out of their seats to get into our hands. But I think if we read between the lines here, it seems like with all the troubles that have gone into the development of this game, I really just feel like at this point they don't want to deal with another PR issue of canceling another one of their first-party games or one of their exclusive games. They'd rather just kind of wash their hands of this. Let's get this game out. Whatever becomes of it, and let's just move on with ourselves. So whatever this game looks like in February when it comes out, multiplayer or not, I think that's going to be that game, and then we're just gonna move on with our lives.
Hopefully. I hope it's good. I really do. I love Terry Crews, and I keep thinking about the world that they keep showing in the videos, how that's going to look on a 4K HDR display. I mean, the game could have a lot of pop in terms of its visuals, but it's the gameplay and whether or not the game is even fundamentally like sound. If it's just a broken mess, fingers crossed. I hope that's not the case because I think there is some potential there. I never played Crackdown 1 and 2, and a lot of people love those games, but it's just right now I'm deeply concerned for this game. So, moving on from that, we've got some new information we want to talk about with Fallout 76. They released a very lengthy, a very deep FAQ this week, an FAQ with a lot of details about what we're going to be doing in this game. Before this, when we went to when we were watching E3 and they were talking about, there were a lot of questions. What are we going to be doing? Is this just going to be like Ark, where you're just kind of running around without any direction, trying to survive, and when you die, you start over? We were really curious about a lot of these things. Well, Bethesda updated their stuff on their website, and here's what we have right now. The first thing they mentioned, what kind of game is Fallout 76? Is Fallout 76 an MMO? That's the question. And here's Pete Hines' response. I mean, it's nothing like Fortnite. It's not even remotely an MMO. It's not like this or that. It's not like Destiny. It's not like any of those things. It's not like Rust, other than it's an online world with people in it. Fallout 76 is a role-playing game. It is not a PvP kill everybody fest. End quote. I like that. I like the sound of that. It's not something where everyone's just going around killing everybody without any reason and griefing people. I think that's awesome. Next question. What is the main quest? You are tasked by the Overseer with a quest that will take you through the 6 regions of the game's map. Okay. What is the end game goal? The end game is cyclical or cyclical. What the hell?
Cyclical.
That's a dumb word for a dumb guy to say. Scorch beasts come from fissures that you have to reseal with the launch of a nuke. Doing so will create an irradiated high-level zone, with each zone offering unique experience with unique high-level floral and fauna and rare and better loot drops such as crafting materials and legendary items. The area will eventually return to normal over time. Exactly how long this will take place is still being tweaked. Now, regarding quests. Are there human NPCs? No. Quests will come through robots, terminals, and holotapes. Also, the Overseer is heard on the Vault PA, and the main quest comes from the Overseer. Here's some more information about robots. There are a lot of different types of robots in the world that you can interact with and have dialogue with and give you quests. So no human NPCs, but robots, terminals, and holotapes will have your quests in it. That's very interesting, but I am glad to see that there will be quests throughout the world. There's going to be stuff for you to do, missions for you to carry out. Awesome. I like hearing that. Some information about PvP and death. How does PvP work? And this is what they said. Think of PvP more like issuing a challenge to somebody as opposed to just no matter what I want to do to somebody, I can. It's more like issuing a challenge, and the game only lets you go so far before you can basically say, I don't want to participate in this challenge anymore. And they wanted some reassurance, and he goes, interacting with other players is done with the systems in place to keep it from being abusive and not fun. You're never losing your progression. You're never losing your stuff. Death is not supposed to be a big negative. Awesome to hear that. How does death work? You pick a place to respawn. There's no loss of items. You can't be looted, and no loss of progression. I really like hearing that. In regards to the camps, can I build my camp anywhere? Almost. You may have to find flat ground. Also, we let you build wherever you want around key locations. We don't let you build though, so you're not messing with quests or things that we have there. And then what happens to my camp when I quit? This is important. Your camp leaves the game with you and is safe. When you play again, the game checks for overlap on the server map instance you're put into. If there's an overlap with someone else's camp, you'll have to place your camp somewhere else. It will be packed up in blueprints, and you can place it somewhere else. So that's kind of different. That's I guess that kind of would suck in a way if you find like a good spot to hold up. Like a real good spot that maybe gives you a tactical advantage to, if you're getting attacked by raiders or whatever the local enemies are, that kind of sucks. You might lose that spot. But, yeah, you don't lose any of your stuff. You just pick it up, and then whenever you come back into the game, you just drop it there. So that's interesting. And now survival elements. Food and drink for survival? Yes, you will need to eat and drink for survival, and food items will spoil. So some survival elements to it. How will the survival requirement of food and drink work? Unknown at this time, but food and drink meters are seen when wearing power armor. Now, the one thing I was interested about was private servers, because obviously it'd be a lot cooler if you could build a private server with a bunch of your friends, a bunch of people. And private servers, not at launch. There is something in the works, but it might still be running off Bethesda's servers. Here's exactly what Todd Howard said. Some period later, we're currently still designing what the service looks like. You'll be able to have your own private world and be able to mod it and do all that. We're definitely committed to that. It just won't be at launch. So, that's interesting. And then regarding the nukes, is it easy to launch a nuke? No. Getting the ability to launch a nuke is not easy. You have to get a number of different code pieces to piece together and have one full code. You have to get through the place where you go in to enter the code, which is obviously not just, open the doors and walk right in. They're not just going to be firing off every 5 minutes. Can you nuke other players? No. You can target a place on the map. You can't target an individual. Man, I hope I pissed someone off that bad where they want to nuke me and not the destination where all the loot is. I hope that's not the case. What if I'm in a location that is being nuked? When the nuke is incoming on an area of the map, people get notified. You can just stand there and not do anything, but you could also get the hell out of the way. Love that description. And then regarding map and other players, how many players per server map instance? Between 24 to 32. It will be an exact number. They just haven't settled on it yet. How do I find other players? The location of other players in the map server instance that you've been matched with will be shown on the in-game map. And is there a way to hide from other players? Yes, with stealth mode. As soon as you crouch, which engages our stealth mode, the dot on the map will quickly fade away so other players won't be able to find you. So, a lot of good stuff in there, boys. We got a better idea of what we're going to be doing. We got a better idea of how we're going to get our missions. There's going to be a lot of structure. I want to get your thoughts on what we got out of this fact compared to what we didn't know a week ago.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in here. The stuff about getting the quests and like you mentioned, the structure and playing with friends, and it's interesting that you can you almost have to challenge somebody to a duel, I guess, in order to engage in a PvP instance, which sounds really strange. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. I'm also a little bit confused about what the point of the PvP part of the game is. So if you die and I think Pete mentioned something about you wouldn't be able to loot anybody, right?
Right, can't be looted
or get anything from them. So what's the point of killing other players? How does that all factor in to the game?
Mm-hmm.
There's also the fact that there's no NPCs in the world other than these robots or the overseer who gives you your quest. Sounds like back at the vault. And then you go out into the world and do whatever he's asking you to do. So I know in my limited time with Fallout, a big part of that game has been going out into the world and meeting these crazy characters and forging these relationships or joining up with people and seeing how your decisions play out and whatnot. So with that missing from the game, with there being no NPC characters, how is that going to affect the Fallout experience? So I've still got a lot of questions about this game, but some of the stuff sounds exciting too. So being able to team up with your friends and go on these quests and explore this world that's 4 times the size of Fallout 4, and I love the way the nuke zone sound, and you can drop a nuke and go into this high level zone and get some of the legendary loot and the things that come with that that zone changing. And Pete cleared up some things there when he mentioned that this was a limited time thing. So after the nuke kind of dissolves, that zone's going to go back to normal. So it won't just be a permanently nuked map or whatever. So some stuff sounds cool. Some stuff still have a lot of questions about though, Brent. Some stuff, still concerning from the perspective of the Fallout fans. They still got to be wondering how exactly is this game going to play out? Where does PvP fit in? I know Pete said that it's not like Rust or some of these other games that he mentioned, but it kind of sounds like it. Some of the stuff that they're talking about. So what exactly is Fallout 76? I still don't have a clear enough picture, but I'm interested nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Frankie, what's your thoughts on this, man? Did you get anything out of that stood out to you, that answered some questions you might have had about jumping into this?
Yeah, some. I know when we were initially talking about this game, I was worried about a lot of the things from Rust. If I'm not playing, somebody can come and kill me and destroy my camp. Mm-hmm. That was a huge concern. So it's nice to know that that's not something I have to worry about. And like Ben mentions, not having any NPCs in the world, and kind of taking away that layer of choice that Fallout's renowned for. Yeah, right, renowned for. That's the word I want to use. I'm wondering is this really going to be that deep of a Fallout game, or is this really just being designed more as a Fallout with friends? Kind of like where Sea of Thieves is, right? Get together with your friends and go explore this apocalyptic world. And, whatever stuff happens on these missions they send you off on is the story, Mm-hmm. And, I think done right, there's nothing wrong with that. And like I saw with Sea of Thieves, I was, very wrong about when I initially thought, having that kind of structure would really hurt that game. Whereas, I enjoy Sea of Thieves for what it is. So I don't have the attachment to Fallout that you do. So I'm not coming into this game with the expectations of, some grand story or all these layers of choice that I know everyone else is probably expecting. I'm more just kind of using this as a means to dip my toes into the Fallout universe, kind of experience the gameplay, learn how like the building mechanics works, and that's in 4. So no, I mean for me it just seems like a more approachable like entry into Fallout, which I'm cool with. I'm actually getting more excited about this game the more I hear about it. So.
And the one thing that I was thinking about, boys, you mentioned there's not going to be a whole lot of human NPCs out there, and that makes sense. I mean, they kind of said this is the first vault that opens, since the bombs have dropped. So there's not going to be a lot of people from other vaults wandering about. But I mean, based on what I played in Fallout games, I mean, the holotapes, the terminals you're going to find everywhere. You got to hack into those. There might be some sweet quests hidden inside those terminals. You'll probably run into characters like Codsworth, robots that are floating around that'll give you quests. There's going to be not people, but there's going to be things out there providing you quests. And ghouls aren't technically humans either anymore. They're ghoulish figures. So I mean, you could run into ghouls out there who can give you quests. They just said there aren't going to be any humans. So I mean, if there's still a lot of robots out there and there's still a lot of terminals, which they're based on all Fallout games, there's a ton of them out there. There are going to be a lot of quests. There's going to be a lot of stuff giving you these quests, and you'll have to carry them out. So I'm not too concerned about the fact that there's not a lot of human NPCs out there. But the fact that there's going to be items out there acting as NPCs giving you quests, I think that we'll have plenty to do in that regard.
Yeah, I'm just really curious, like how the game is going to be structured, because, up to this point, I haven't really found myself taken or really super interested in any of these games that don't have, much of a structure. So the things like you mentioned, like the Ark games or like Sea of Thieves, that kind of stuff, where you're just kind of out there just doing stuff. I haven't really found myself like wanting to get invested in one of those kind of games yet. I do like more of a structure with my games. So that's what I'm really curious about. It's like, how is the moment to moment structure of Fallout 76 going to play out? And that's really what I want to see at this point. I want to get some more information on that, and I'm sure Bethesda will be talking about that soon.
Bender, did you hear anything on that fact that sounded interesting to you that might pull you into your first ever Fallout game?
There's some interesting details, but I just don't know if it's going to be something that I'll really want to jump into or not.
Yeah, one other thing I want to mention too, they did clarify there will be a VAT system. A VAT system will be present in this game, but it'll be real time. So you can still target certain areas of the body in real time. That'll give you an idea of what your percentage is. There's going to be perks that'll improve the percentage on certain areas. There's going to be a lot of perks in this game. The special system will be back. So there's a lot of that stuff in there. The part of the RPG elements of Fallout will be present in this game. But the VAT system, I didn't think there'd be any way they'd be able to include it, because it's predominantly something you use to stop time and really target your spots. So the fact that they're going to bring VATs in there, but it will be real time. I'm not sure how well that's going to work if you're trying to aim for 6 or 7 different limbs depending on the creature you're fighting in real time, but that will be an option in there. I'll be curious to see how that plays out.
That's the other part of this I'm curious about too, Brent, is Fallout is never been like, it's never been a game that you looked at like, yeah, the gameplay of Fallout, that's like incredible. Like the shooting mechanics aren't like something you look at and you're like, man, I want my game to play exactly like that. So it's like that's when you remove some of the other Fallout things that we've seen, and hopefully we see, like you're talking about, like the terminals, like the robots, like other things out in the world that are going to be able to give us quests. But when you remove a little bit of the structure of the game, some of the NPCs and some of the story stuff that people have really like latched onto with the Fallout universe, you do get a little bit worried. Like, are we falling back on gameplay with this one? And is it going to be strong enough to carry the experience? So that's something else I'm very, very curious to see how it plays out.
And they did mention this is a new engine. Okay, this is a new engine a new engine for Fallout. So hopefully that new engine will bring tighter gameplay, tighter shooting mechanics. So that's a lot of stuff that this engine could improve on. So like you said, the fact that this is going to be more gameplay driven. I mean, there's going to be stuff to do, but the fact that it's going to be online and there is going to be some form of PvP interaction, you're going to want to have those tight controls. So hopefully that new engine is what's going to allow that to happen.
I'm curious too, man. Like, ideally, that just from what they've talked about here, you won't be able to loot people that you come across. Like, how do you envision PvP playing out in this game? Like, what do you envision being the ultimate goal of it? Is it just a series, like a checklist you're going through to kill this many guys and I unlock this quest, or how do you see it playing out?
There's got to be some kind of progression or reward system for PvP. I mean, you can't just have it, you shoot each other, you kill the guy, and there's nothing there for you to get. I mean, maybe you can't loot the person, but maybe you'll get a choice of some items that the game recognizes in their inventory. You can't loot them per se, like take it from them, but you can take that item and you now have it, but you don't actually lose it on the death side. But again, that would just be straight. There just has to be something in there that gives you, some kind of progression or some kind of reward for killing somebody if they want to, engage in the PvP with you.
I was thinking about that too. Like maybe they would just give you an item, but it wouldn't necessarily take it from the person you killed. So yeah, I could see something like that playing out.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, a lot of good stuff from Fallout 76, and that's not the only game that we heard a little bit about, boys. Let's talk a little bit about Skulls and Bones. I mean, Kotaku put up an article that compared it to a game that we're kind of fans of.
Yeah, Kotaku got some hands-on time, as many people did. Skull and Bones was playable at E3 this year, so there was a lot of impressions that came out. I've read a couple of them that were pretty positive, and Kotaku had an interesting one because they prefaced it with Skull and Bones could be more of like a pirate version of Destiny. So obviously, when I see that headline, my ears and eyes perk up, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I'm going to read a little bit from the Kotaku article just to get a baseline for what we're talking about here. So this is from the article here. A year later, and after having played it, I see Skull and Bones as more of a pirate Destiny. This year's E3 demo showcased the experience of sailing in a shared open ocean. You still can't get off the ship, but you're now doing player versus environment as well as player versus player. The fantasy we all have as kids is to say, let's get ourselves at the helm of the ship. Let's go out and look for treasure. Let's take down our enemies, the game's creative director Justin Farron told Kotaku at E3. In execution, that means the game will consist of disputed waters, which is Ubisoft's jargon for match-made PvP, and the hunting grounds, a series of massive open ocean maps that players will share. The game's E3 demo was set in a hunting ground off of Madagascar, a 16 by 16 kilometer expanse, several times larger than Black Flag, and sprinkled with islands, ships, and treasure, Farron said. Skull and Bones is no more Overwatch than it is World of Warcraft. It's not an MMO. Farron said that hunting grounds maps would contain around 10 player-controlled ships, a number that he said is intended to allow encounters to be meaningful and somewhat personal. So players unlock starter ships, upgrade them with better gear, and eventually add other ships to choose from. Our ships are RPG archetypes. So you have tanks and you have DPS, hybrid support. That's the type of experience we want people to have, so it's accessible and people can understand it, Farron said. He expects players will find their favorite, and then, as they learn the intricacy and develop the skill of navigation and combat, they start to develop proficiencies with that ship. So the plan is to let players customize their own pirate, who they'll see in a hideout where they plan their loadout before entering a hunting ground. Mm-hmm. In the E3 demo, I chose Kotaku from preset characters and ships, noting differences in speed, offense, special abilities. One ship might be better at ramming, for example, like we learned at E3, and the way the ship will handle in the wind. The wind thing is crucial, as sailing into the wind will lock a ship in irons, the nautical metaphor for barely being able to move. In terms of PvP, so we look at this is Farron talking again. So we look at how do we make the game accessible for people who are not necessarily PvP players, and it's giving you tools. You can use your crow's nest or your spyglass to identify threats. It's not like many shooters where someone is on top of you very quickly. You can react and you can see it. So that's kind of their approach to PvP and making it more accessible. This is some stuff from the hands-on experience now. So bit by bit, I pursued a sequence of basic missions. Sink one ship, collect treasure floating in the sea, and so on, all with the goal of triggering an appearance by a mighty pirate captain who also sails in these waters. As I did this, I also seemed to activate an optional co-op challenge to attack a slew of ships loyal to that grand pirate. I tried to take them on my own and was obliterated. They did warn me it was meant for co-op. I also sailed towards some shipwrecks and landmasses to see what those had to offer. At one wreck, I could repair my ship and also disguise myself by raising a Portuguese flag, which suggested that Skull and Bones will give players an option for more devious play. Near land, I was able to grab some treasure, though any off-ship action, as with boarding of damaged vessels, is presented in cutscenes. I didn't see any standalone missions, nothing that would take me out of the shared map and into a more linear adventure. My sense is that Skull and Bones doesn't do that. It seems to be about being in a shared space, sizing up ships from afar, with the knowledge that there are other people around making similar decisions of their own. So that's kind of the stuff I pulled out of the article here. So, Brent, you know what? Hearing that, are you more excited about Skull and Bones now? Less excited? Does this sound like it could possibly be a games as a service type of a game that could pull us in with all these other games as a service games we're going to be playing? What's your thoughts on what we learned about Skull and Bones this week?
Okay, like first of all, let me preface this by saying I really loved the E3 presentation. Okay, I was sold on the game by the E3 presentation. It looked exciting. It looked fun. The combat looked epic. But after reading this article and kind of getting some ideas, I'm still excited about. But now I'm not concerned. But I am curious to know what am I going to be able to do when I'm in this open space. I mean, if we can't leave the ship, you're confined to your ship. This is going to be strictly naval combat now. You're just going to be looking at combat from ships. And there's only so much you can do in terms of like quests from a ship. I mean, yes, sneak in, buy these fortresses, or battle the fortresses here, or whatever you got to do. Take down the big ship, and stuff like that. I guess I don't want to say concern because I really think the game looks fun, and I'm sure they'll have a lot of stuff to do. I guess variety is more the word I'm looking for. I mean, is there going to be enough variety to the mission types to make you want to hop in every day and sink a bunch of time into it? That stuff. Jeez, I forgot about that, and I can't believe I said that. Anyways, but I like the idea. It just sounds like this is almost like the what's it called, the hunting grounds. Sounds a lot like the Dark Zone. You can go out there, do stuff. If you want to work with people, you can. If you don't want to work with people, you can just engage in combat freely and do whatever you want. So as long as it's balanced and you have a lot of opportunity to see ships from far away, kind of distinguish if they're friend or foe. And again, I want to know the variety of mission types. I mean, we got a little idea from the article about the stuff he was doing. I want to know how much variety there is to it. There can be different areas, the dynamic weather and all that stuff to kind of keep things fresh. That's what I'm curious about now.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I thought the same thing when reading through this, and Kotaku mentioned it as well. Like, yeah, they're also wondering about the variety that's going to be in this game and how it's going to keep players engaged. So I thought the same exact thing. I was, I get excited about reading some of the stuff. I love that you can customize your ship, and there's different ships you can get, and there's things that you can do that legitimately affect the gameplay experience by the upgrades that you get, which is one of the things that I thought was missing from Sea of Thieves, just an ability to upgrade your character and legitimately affect the gameplay or your gameplay experience. So to see that's present in Skull and Bones is exciting. Then on the other side of the token, I was hoping that we were going to get like a cool like narrative or campaign type of experience. It sounds like they're moving towards that, but the fact that we can't leave our ship, that the ships are always just a one-person ship, so it's not something where you're going to have multiple people on a ship manning different posts like you see at these, which is definitely the coolest part about that game. So you're just kind of locked into your ship, and then you're involved in whatever the game is gonna throw your way. So a little bit concerned about that we're not going to be able to experience anything outside of that. Like you mentioned, Brent, it's just like how much can you actually do on that ship, and it's going to be incumbent upon the developers to kind of figure out how to keep us engaged with that. So definitely still excited about the game. Definitely some trepidation though with some of the stuff as we learn more about it. Franklin, where are you falling right now on what we know with Skull and Bones?
To be honest with you, I really wasn't expecting any off-ship combat or anything from this game, just because the stuff that they've shown, they've kind of honed in more on the ship combat and kind of like the Assassin's Creed, the Black Flag, sailing and ship combat like that as a game. That's what I initially had saw this as. So the fact that they're kind of expanding from just being a competitive multiplayer thing to, hey, go complete these quests and take on this legendary ship, like stuff like that is exciting to me. So really, I mean, just based on my expectations, hearing that's making this game sound even more appealing to me already. So it's actually, I think, the only beta at E3 that I think I registered to try to get into. So I'm hoping I can get my hands on this thing at some point, before it comes out and try it out. But I can't wait to. This game sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I do like the fact that you can kind of disguise yourself as these other nationality ships or merchant ships or whatnot. So that's kind of telling me that maybe there's just going to be regular NPC ships out anyways that players may or may not be trying to interact with. So it kind of gives you that option to avoid combat, unlike in Sea of Thieves where everyone, oh my God, there's a ship, we have to go sink it, and I know that's not totally accurate anymore because I know a lot of people are starting to work together finally, but it feels like it's going to be a really great thing to hop into when it comes out.
Yeah, and what you mentioned there, Frankie, like taking the naval combat experience of Black Flag and like breaking that off into his, I mean, that's the vision for Skull and Bones. Like that was originally their whole point of this. Is like, let's take that and make it its own game. And since we originally saw the game unveiled to where we've got now, like they've kind of expanded their scope on this, I think, a lot in terms of what they were originally shown with this game. And now they're adding all of this stuff that you can play from a single player perspective, and it's not just ship versus ship combat. Like there's more that's going to go into this game, so it has evolved greatly from that. So yeah, I think for part of it for me is going to be not expanding my expectations for this game too much, or trying to create something that this game is not or was never intended to be. So like this was never really intended to be, like you mentioned, this on foot like Assassin's Creed game.
Right.
Like this was intended to be like a pirate game where you're in the ship and doing ship stuff. So if the combat within the ship is fleshed out and engaging as something that we might see in like a first person shooter, then yeah, like this could be like a really, really awesome experience. And if they mix in some of this like Destiny type stuff and we're finding upgrades and loot for our ship and all that kind of stuff, this could be really, really fun if it's there from a gameplay perspective. And from what we've seen initially from this game, like, they're definitely onto something. It looks like a lot of fun. Bender, what are your thoughts on Skull and Bones, man? From what we've learned coming out of E3 and what we know about it now, would you be on board with kind of the direction they're moving, which just sounds like maybe a Destiny type of pirate game?
This sounds pretty cool. I'd be down with that if it has a fun gameplay loop and a good loot game and all that stuff. If it's fun to play with friends, I could see it being something I could get into. It's definitely a lot more intriguing now than it was when it was first revealed, because I thought it was just going to be like just ships shooting at each other, and I was like, whatever. So I mean, sounds like there's a little deeper than that, so that sounds pretty cool. So I'd like to learn more, but it's definitely starting to pique my interest.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what it comes down to, Brent. Like I think we're all interested in this game. We still have some questions about it, but the interest that we have, I think outweighs some of the questions that we have now. So this is one that I think we're all really looking forward to getting our hands on when it eventually comes out next year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. A lot of it's very promising. I'm still very, very excited for it. I do want to hear about some variety though in the mission types. So
yeah,
very good stuff. So a lot of cool stuff from Skull and Bones and Fallout 76. Now we're gonna move to a story that I thought was really. We heard about this a couple months back when they first revealed the collector's edition, but things just got even a little more strange this week. This is regarding the Spider-Man collector's edition. During a Twitch live stream, Insomniac Games confirmed that the collector's edition contains a big action figure of some significant character we'll come to know of in the game. However, the studio doesn't want to reveal the identity or role of the character until the player reaches the latter part of the game. Insomniac said, someone asked if we're going to show the full collector's edition, and the answer is no. It's a spoiler, and it'll even say on the box, don't look at this till you played far enough in the game. End quote. So, as you can see here on the collector's edition, there's a box with Spider-Man on top of it, and it's going to be closed off. They don't want you to see what's in there. And now, it says revealing summer 2018. I think what they meant was revealing 20 hours into the game in September or October. Don't open it. I want to get you guys' thoughts on this. Bender, I want to start with you, man. When you buy a collector's edition, okay, you open it up, you want to see what's in there. You want to open up and get in there and see all the cool stuff. How hard is it going to be to open up your collector's edition and be like, oh, I can't look at this whole statue. I got to play through the game first.
It's going to be really weird. And also just make sure you don't go on the internet, because pictures of that thing are going to go up online as soon as that game releases. So if you want to avoid those spoilers, you're just going to have to play the game and just avoid Twitter until you get to that point, whatever point it is. Hopefully, it's not too far into the game.
It says latter part of the game, so I'm guessing it's more than 50%.
That's weird. I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Frankie, I know you're a big fan of collector's editions. What's your thoughts on this, dude?
This is something I was thinking about too, because I know when Batman Arkham Knight came out, the statue that came with that is kind of a spoiler for that game, right? Mm-hmm. So knowing that this is the route that they wanted to go with Spider-Man, like, oh, we're not going to reveal this, until summer. I'm sitting here thinking, like, if you're going to wait until summer, like, this is obviously a huge character. So, I don't understand why, if the character you're going to include with your collector's edition statue is a major spoiler, or some detail of your statue is a spoiler, why is it in there? Why is it in there? That's the only thing I don't understand, because I buy this thing, like, I'm ripping that box open, tossing the game on the bed. I want to see that damn statue. That's what I'm spending $150 on, So, and honestly, if you dig around online, you can probably figure out who it is.
Well, I'm going to come to Boyce, and I want to do a quick roundtable with you guys on this. Boyce, obviously, first of all, they don't want to reveal what it is. It's a big spoiler. Obviously, this is a big-time character. Of all the we saw a bunch of the villains in the trailer. I want to get your guess. Who is not only a big enough character to be a spoiler, like a big character in a game, but also to warrant a reason to appear on the collector's edition statue? Who is on there, dude? I want to get your thoughts. If you had to guess, which character is hidden there that's that big of a surprise?
Man, I've not been digging around to try and figure out what the theories are on this, so I don't have any, preconceived notion or on what people think that this could be. But yeah, just real quick, like, this is very strange. This is one of the strangest things I've ever seen in regards to a game. And I'm Frankie mentioned that the statue for Arkham Knight may have been a part of a spoiler for that game, and I don't know, because I still haven't looked at the statue for that game. So I'm one of those people that I get the collector's edition, I take the game out, and I start playing it, and sometimes I don't even get to the stuff that's inside of the box. So it's really bad. But so I would probably, yeah. So I would probably just bring Spider-Man on, pull the game out, and I may have not even got to the box to even see what's in there. So it may not have been an issue for me. But man, I'm trying to think, like, who could be on that statue. Like, I'm guessing it's a character of some sort. So maybe it's Miles Morales as Spider-Man. Like, maybe they have him in there, so they're showing you that he could be in the game. There's been we know Miles is in there in some respect. Maybe it's a statue of the Superior Spider-Man. So maybe they go into that storyline at some point in the game. Dan Slott is one of the writers for the games. He came up with that character at the time, so maybe that character's in there. Maybe it's just a really big villain like Green Goblin or Venom is in there or something like that. I don't know. It could be anything. Like, I don't really know. Just the fact that it's probably not just a villain. Maybe it's that character that they didn't show us in the trailer.
True.
Who showed up on the scene at the end of that villains trailer that we saw at E3. I don't know, man. There's just so many different things it could be, but for them to be like that guarded about it, I'm gonna say, like, either Miles Morales Spider-Man or Superior Spider-Man would be the thing that's inside the box.
Frankie, any guesses on your behalf?
I had one, but the one that I was guessing it was also is apparently the one that's floating around as the possible, I don't want to say leak, but there's a voice actor who mentioned a certain character that he voiced in the game that the video's been deleted, but that might be the one. But I don't want to say anything. If you want to know, you guys can go and dig that stuff up if you want to. But
Jacob says it's Frankie. He's the figure.
True. Confirmed.
Benner, any guess on your half, man? Any ideas any names you throw out there?
I don't know. I kind of agree with Ben. It's probably not a villain on there. It's probably some other hero or some person who shows up to help him out. because the way that trailer played out, if it is the person that they cut away from, in the E3 trailer, the way that trailer played out, I saw some people online guessing that I was another villain showing up, but I was like, no, that felt like it was like somebody who was showing up to help him, like he didn't expect to see. So I don't know, like Iron Man, maybe. I don't know.
That would be that was
no
gonna be my guess. It's gonna be somebody from like the like Iron Man or somebody like that, because that would be if there's anybody that deserves to be on a statue for a Spider-Man Collector's Edition, somebody big, it'd be Iron Man or something like that. But like you said, we see those little hints in those pictures that came out, kind of like in newspaper articles and stuff like that, that show that these characters exist in this universe. But I don't know if that would actually happen. But that's my guess. It's going to be somebody like really big that nobody would even guess. But like I would love to see if it was like Iron Man. I think that'd be totally rad. So that'd be my guess, like either Iron Man or I don't even know who was like. I feel like Iron Man's is closely related to Spider-Man.
Spider-Man has a long-standing like relationship or like bantering partnership with the Human Torch. So that could be somebody who could be involved. They team up a lot in the comics over the years, so they always have an interesting relationship. They kind of joke with each other. They're both kind of jokesters. So I could see something like that. Like if that was the case, do you think that they would actually have a section where you could, like, if it was the Human Torch, for instance, where you could actually play as Human Torch in like a part of the game, and that would be like a big surprise? Surprise level.
I think it would be. Hell yeah. I think that'd be pretty sweet.
Doesn't he banter with Deadpool a lot too?
Deadpool banters with everybody, so yes.
Deadpool would be fun.
That would be really fun. That'd be crazy as hell. Now, here's the only thing I hope, man. I hope when they put this collector's edition together, when you open the box, the game is right there at the top. The game is right there. So people who don't want to get spoiled, I don't want to see like the clear. I hate it when they use the clear packaging. Like that they put the thing in, so if you open up, like, oh, there it is, there's the game, and there's the spoiler. Hopefully that thing is locked up tight, deep in the box. The game's on top with all the downloadable content right there, so I can take it off, put it away, and go play. Hopefully the packaging is going to be important. They put this together right, so there's no spoilers. Don't be sloppy with that, please.
I would think the statue would be in its own box inside the box.
Yes.
I would hope so.
Yeah,
Maybe
box in a box.
styrofoam.
Yeah, please. It's a box, styrofoam, everything. Nothing clear. So please make sure you package that thing right. All right.
The thing I was going to mention too was you mentioned how they probably won't have any more villains, but when they're up there beating the crap out of him, somebody says that the boss wants him alive. So there has to be somebody else involved.
He does.
Well, I didn't say there's no more villains. I'm just saying in that trailer, in the context, like, I just felt like I don't know. I could be wrong, but I got the impression that it was somebody good, like showing up to help him. But I could be wrong. It could be another villain showing up or something.
Doesn't Spider-Man say something when the guy shows up? Does he say?
I think he says, "I didn't expect to see you," or something like that.
I thought it was something like that, or what are you doing here? Or something. It was just something. Yeah, I guess I'd have to watch it again to see exactly what he says to help me give me an idea if that's a friend or a foe that showed up. I guess I would just have to hear him say it again.
I also got the impression that it was somebody flying.
Yeah,
like because he was like looking up above overhead, and there was kind of a glow from off screen. I got the impression that it was somebody flying up.
Yeah.
That's why I was also thinking if it was a villain, it would be somebody outside of like Spider-Man's typical universe. Like maybe it would be somebody like Doctor Doom or Thanos, or just something crazy off the wall would show up on as a villain in the game, and maybe
Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah, that would throw us all for a loop there.
Jeez, that'd be insane. But yeah, very, very strange story regarding the Spider-Man Collector's Edition. If you don't want it spoiled, if you don't want the story spoiled, but when you get it, just take the game out and put it away and just go play it until you. Hopefully, it'll tell you like some point in the game, hey, this is the guy right here. You can go open your Collector's Edition now. But I'm assuming it'll be something very noticeable.
If they're making this big of a deal about it, I'm assuming that we'll know when it happens.
Yeah, when the character shows up, you're like, okay, that's who it is. Then you can go open it. All right, moving on from Spider-Man. Benner talked about Captain Spirit earlier. Life is Strange. The 5-episode story begins in September. The first episode of Don't Nod's entertainment dramatic story-heavy adventure game will launch September 27th on PlayStation 4, Windows PC, and Xbox One. Square Enix is promising more information to come no sooner than August. Obviously, Captain Spirit will tie into the overarching story of Life is Strange 2, although it's unclear how. All we do know is that neither game will take place in Arcadia Bay, where the first Life is Strange was set, and that Captain Spirit's short story will include choices that will impact Life is Strange 2, as Bender mentioned earlier. Bender, I want to get your thoughts. Now that we're a week after E3, your Life is Strange 2 prediction comes through. What's your thoughts? What are you excited for this?
I'm very excited. I wish they would have announced it at E3 like I predicted, but I'm glad that they announced it either way. I'm glad that it's coming this year. I'm very excited for the sequel to Life is Strange. I really enjoyed that game, and I encourage anyone who hasn't, if you like story heavy games, I encourage you to go play it if you haven't already. But yeah, it's definitely a good series, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they take it next.
Mm-hmm. Frankie, I know you were a big fan of the first series. What's your take on this one, bud?
Very excited. Like Bender said, I'm really curious to see where they go from here. Like I said before, they've talked about this Life is Strange to them as this big universe. So I'm just hoping for the same type of impactful storytelling the first one had. And I'm honestly not even sure what to expect. What kind of weird quirks, or if this episode's going to be dealing more with more like imagination and more imaginatory characters. I don't know, but very excited to hear more about it nonetheless.
Boys, your thoughts?
I unfortunately have still not played Life is Strange, so I need to remedy that at some point. Obviously, Bender and Frankie love that game. Many people have spoken very highly of the game, so it's something I do need to remedy at some point. But yeah, from what I can tell, this sounds like a completely new experience inside of the Life is Strange universe with different characters and the whole shebang. So I mean, even if somebody hasn't played the first Life is Strange, I'm sure there'll be some callbacks and some in-joke kind of stuff that people who've played the previous games will be able to pick up on. But even those of us that haven't experienced the first Life is Strange, sounds like maybe we'll be able to hop into Life is Strange 2 and experience what that has to offer. But yeah, I am curious about this universe. I do need to step my toe into it at some point. So it's on my list of things to do.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right, next thing we want to talk about is God of War. There was an interesting story that came out this week that went into detail explaining that over half of those who have played God of War have actually finished it. To be specific, 50.7% of everyone who's played God of War has actually finished it, which is, everyone thinks at first, 50%, that's not very good. But to put things in perspective, there were some other numbers that came out about other single-player games. Frankie, Yakuza 0, 30% of those who played Yakuza 0 have actually completed its final chapter. Only 30%. 37% of those who played Assassin's Creed Origins have completed its last main quest. Persona 5, 34.6% of those who played Persona 5 have seen its ending. Yakuza Kiwami, 38.1% have completed its story. Resident Evil 7, 39.4% completed it on at least easy. Man, 39%. Final Fantasy 7 is so good. Resident Evil 7 is so good. Final Fantasy 15, 39% have completed it. Rise of the Tomb Raider, 48% have completed it. That's a little bit better. Yakuza 6, 38%, Frankie. Man, Yakuza fans need to finish these games, dude. And lastly, Uncharted 4, 42% have completed at least Explorer difficulty. So, I mean, to put things into perspective, 50% compared to a lot of these games is actually pretty good. Frankie, I want to get your thoughts on that, man. 50% of the people who have played God of War have actually finished it. That's a single-player game, no multiplayer. It's just the campaign.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of those, the Yakuza games, Persona, they're really long games, so if you're going to be playing those, they're typically a time investment. And I think that's, and not to make an excuse for all the other ones, because I know Tomb Raider isn't necessarily, a big 20-hour game. I think you can finish that game in like 12 hours. Mm-hmm. And Resident Evil 7 is also not that long. So, I don't know. That's wild to me, some of these stats. And I know it's funny playing games on Xbox when sometimes you finish a game just finishing the game. Like when we finished Gears of War 4 for the campaign, and they finally added the achievements for it. Those are all ultra rare achievements, so they have that little cool sound effect that plays. But
Yeah.
I don't understand why people just don't finish games.
It's weird, man. But I mean, I've been guilty of it, man. And I think it comes down to the fact just time. I mean, I'm sure there's people that can sit down and literally just play any game they want for as long as they want. I wish I was them. But for myself, and I know, Ben, you're the same way. You know, you go to work, you come home, you got kids. And I think this ties into the fact that I think you mentioned recently that the average gamer is like 35 years old. And the average, 35 years old, a lot of those people might be married, they might have kids, and that really cuts into your time to be able to play through games and beat them. And I think that's why it's difficult. I haven't beaten God of War. I mean, I'm pretty far into it, but I have not beaten it, so I'm part of the problem. But it's just very difficult to sit down. I can't stay up till 4 o'clock like these guys play Monster Hunter. I can't stay up till 4 o'clock playing God of War. I have a few hours a night where I do Destiny 2 once or twice a week. I can get God of War in here and there, but it's just very difficult for me to say, okay, look, I'm gonna go 6 hours a night playing God of War. Can't do it. There's no way I could do it. The kids don't give a shit what time I'm up at. They're like, we're gonna be up at 6. You better be up at 6 too. So it's very difficult, but I can understand why those numbers are low. But I mean, there probably are people who just play these games and are like, no, I'm just gonna move on to the next thing, and they have plenty of time to do it. I don't get it, boys.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into this. Like you mentioned, I don't have the scientific stats on this, but I'm pretty sure the average age of like the core gamer rises every single year, and it's up into the 30s at this point. So like you mentioned, like we have jobs and wives and kids and all this kind of stuff that goes on now as we get older. So that takes and cuts into our gaming time. We can't game like we're 17 anymore and just stay up all day every day and just play nothing but games. So that factors into it. Also, part of this list too, God of War is a recent title, so it's one of the things they mentioned in this article too. But God of War has only been out for a few months. Some of these games have been out for a long time, so they've had more time to establish an even bigger player base than initially. As the game first came out. So obviously a big chunk of your player base is in those first few weeks and those first few months as people are buying the game and getting into it. But especially for a game like God of War that's been this well received and has this much buzz behind and this much critical acclaim and just the amount of positivity that's gone into this game, this is something that's going to be selling for a long time to come. So people are going to be buying this game, and that number is going to continue to drop as more and more people purchase this game. So some of these games like Assassin's Creed Origin and Resident Evil 7 and Tomb Raider and all these things, they've been out for a while. So to see an almost 50% completion rate on Tomb Raider, even though it's not a terribly long game, like that's still pretty impressive for the amount of people that have bought that game at this point. Final Fantasy 15, that's how long does it take to finish that game, Bender? 60 hours or something? And 40% of the people that have picked up Final Fantasy 15 have completed it. It's a pretty impressive stat.
Yeah.
For a game of that size. Persona 5, even 35% have seen the ending of that beast. Yeah, that thing's 80 to 100 hours. So there's a little bit of the time that goes into it as well. But that being said, still having 50% of the people that have picked up your game complete it, and God of War is not a short game. Like you can spend 20, 25 hours playing, or you can spend 30, 40 hours like going off and doing other stuff in the game. So this is not just an 8-hour experience, 5-hour experience. You whip through it quickly. Like people have to sit down and invest in this game. It's just the testament to the quality of the game and the engrossing story that Santa Monica has put out there. And when people sit down to play this game, like they want to see it through to the end. And I'm part of that problem as well, Brent. I still haven't finished God of War, and it's part of the reason that we played Destiny and why I think Destiny is something that has dug its hooks into us so deep. It's because that when in between the things that are going on in our lives, it's very easy for us to sit down and play Destiny. Like we know what we're getting into. We know what we have to do. Like we know what the goal is. There's not a whole lot we have to think about. We don't have to really be like, all right, I need a couple hours so that I can get invested in this story part and this cutscene and see how all this plays out. Like you just sit down, you shoot some people, you get some loot, and then you move on with your day and you fit it in wherever you can. It's just kind of like comfort food at this point. So it's why we dive into Destiny so much. It's because we've invested so much into that world and we just know what to expect from it. So sometimes at the end of a long day, you're like, man, this game's rad and it's completely awesome, and I want to sit down and play it. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay awake. I don't know if I really feel like investing into this game right now. I just want to kind of turn my mind off and shoot things. So hey, let's turn on Destiny. So there's some of that goes into it as well. But yeah, 50% is impressive for God of War nonetheless.
Jacob in the chat says, I can't just leave a game. I need to complete the campaign and experience endgame. He's got to see it through to the end. I envy you, Jacob. Frankie, you've been just shaking your head in disbelief and disgust with us. I'm sorry. I promise you before the end of the year, I will finish God of War. That is, I mean it for you. I mean it for you.
No. Between you and boys, your promises, beating games don't mean anything.
Oh, wow. He's giving up on us.
They are pretty shallow at this point. I'm not going to lie. We've kind of beaten that boy who cried wolf into the ground there. We're really gonna have to
beating that dead
redeem ourselves.
Yeah. I tell you what, Frankie. I promise. Jeez, I can't even make a promise.
The one thing I did want to mention with this though that I do find to be kind of interesting is I'm positive God of War has definitely outsold not all of these other games, but definitely Yakuza, probably Persona. Like there's more copies of God of War out there, so the fact that completion percentage is higher, knowing that we have 3-4 million copies of that game sold by now.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah, so that's still pretty freaking impressive.
Yeah. It really is. It's
the other problem with this is, Brent, this playing God of War, you don't have to worry about all these different loading screens, to this and that. God of War is just constantly going, so you don't know when to stop.
Yeah, and that's my biggest problem. It's not a problem with the game. It's the fact that when I sit there and fire up God of War, I know there is a distinct possibility I'm going to look at my watch or my phone and be like, it's 3:00 in the morning. I have made a grave mistake. I'm gonna love the fact that I played it, and the fact that it keeps me hooked that late. But I'm going to be pissed at 6:30 when Ethan's in my bed going, time to get up, Dad. And I'm gonna be like, no. So that's the trade-off. But yeah, it's something I really do enjoy about the game. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's a fantastic game, and I do want to play bits and pieces here and there and just try to get through it this year. I'm going to make an effort I'm not going to sit down and be like, I'm going to play it for 4 hours. I'm just going to sit down when I have a chance, play it, and hopefully by the end of the year I can see those end credits. So very good game.
It's honestly embarrassing that I haven't sat down to play through that game. It's shameful. So
that's not the embarrassing one, okay?
Oh
hey,
wow!
It's the latest in a long line of embarrassing games that I've yet to complete or even start. So
Frankie, I think we know the most embarrassing one will be on September 7th.
Hey,
that's one of the most embarrassing things
we don't
that
need,
come.
Yeah, we don't need to dig up this. We don't need to dig up this again.
Yeah, we do.
So just let it go.
All right, let's move on to May's NPD results. We'll start with hardware first. Sony's PlayStation 4 continued its streak as the best-selling console year to date, though the other consoles didn't do too shabby either. In a quote, this is from Matt Piscatella from the NPD Group. Sony's PlayStation 4, Xbox, Microsoft's Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch all achieved all-time unit sale highs for the month of May. Previous highs were May 2016 for the PlayStation 4, May 2015 for Xbox One, and May 2017 for the Switch. So this May was the biggest May for all three of these platforms. So consoles are selling very, very well late in the cycle, especially for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Now, in terms of the games, the software, this is where we had a kind of a surprise this month. As the top 20 games of May 2018, State of Decay 2 was the number one game of May. And Frankie, correct me if I'm wrong, but State of Decay, the Game Pass downloads don't count towards this, do they?
Nope.
Now, if you bought State of Decay through Game Pass, getting the discount, does that count?
Yes.
Okay. So Game Pass could have easily played a big factor in this. But State of Decay number 2, Frankie, what's your thoughts on that, dude?
It's pretty crazy. I know this game, I wasn't sure where the hype was with it because it's not a game I'm too familiar with, and I know it's a very, I don't want to say a niche title, but it's not like the typical zombie experience. This is much more, survival management heavy. So I honestly wasn't sure how this thing would do, but I think coming out at $30, Xbox One owners haven't really had many exclusives to buy, so it's a no-brainer. If you're an Xbox One owner, you're looking for some exclusives that you want to have on your shelf. $30 for a new State of Decay sounds awesome, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. Every single time we've seen this game at E3, just the trailers to the game have always looked pretty cool. Graphically, it doesn't look like the most impressive thing ever, but it still looks like a pretty fun time. So the thing that I'm still taking away from this, though, is I'm shocked that, despite the fact that Game Pass is out there, people who have that can play this game for free, free on day one. People are still running out and buying it anyways. So that's I don't know what that says about Game Pass. Obviously it's not cutting into day one sales like people were worried, and it's not affecting retail sales. So I don't know. I mean, I know the discount too is probably pretty sweet. So if you're doing the trial, you get in there, try it out. Like, oh well, I'll be playing this longer than 14 days. So I get 10% off the game.
Right.
It's not a terrible incentive. So it's good to see that Game Pass isn't really hurting sales. It seems like it's actually kind of helping them. So that's cool.
Right. Boys, obviously, State of Decay 2, the reviews weren't stellar. I mean, they were pretty lukewarm for the most part. But despite that, and the buzz for it wasn't all that great. Here it is at number 1 for the month of May.
Yeah, I was definitely a little surprised to see this, and for the reasons that you mentioned. It's a Game Pass title. It was not received great critically, but I think this shows us a couple of things. I think like Frankie mentioned, the price point. I think that was definitely huge for this. Coming out in May, I think really helped this game. So this is not like the busiest time of the year in terms of gaming, and people like you said are looking for things to play on their Xbox, and State of Decay comes along, like, cool, I've been waiting for a new game to play on my Xbox. This one comes along, like, let me give this a whirl. The fact that it's only $30, and when you have things like the Gamers Club Unlocked or Amazon, and you get 20% off if you buy the game, initially, the game almost gets into like impulse buy territory when you take that 20% off and you're spending like, what is it, $24 or whatever it comes out to be. Like that's not a huge investment for a game that could, if it resonates with you, like give you tens and dozens of hours of enjoyment. So I think a lot of people were willing to kind of take a stab at that. I think this also shows us kind of where we're at in terms of at least the console market right now. So I don't remember where it was recently, but I saw an article that was something like 60-70% of people who own a console still prefer to get their games physically or go to the store and buy them, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, your people. So a lot of people I think are still hesitant to jump into the Game Pass world, or don't really fully understand how that works. They're still just kind of used to going to the store and buying games. So when they go to their local dealer and they see State of Decay 2 in their Xbox section, it's a brand new game, it's $30. They're like, yeah, let's give this a whirl and see what it's all about. Like, some of my friends are talking about it, and I think there's also a little bit of some of the Xbox community has kind of there's been some flack in terms of the lack of support for some of these exclusive games that have come out on the platform in the past. Things like Quantum Break or whatnot. It's like, yeah, these games are coming out of the platform, but there's not enough people buying them. So maybe the community took that a little bit to heart with State of Decay 2, and when you couple all of this stuff together with the price point and the release month and everything else that we talked about, it becomes kind of a perfect storm for this game. People go out and they buy it and they give it a whirl, and State of Decay 2 ends up at number 1 on the MPD software charts for May. So, when you think about it, it becomes more plausible. But yeah, at first blush, I was definitely a little surprised to see this one at the top of the list.
Yeah. Or if you're Brent, you buy 2 copies.
Anyways.
Man.
But no, I think, boys, I think you pretty much nailed it. I mean, I too, when I saw State of Decay 2, I was like, what? But then, like you mentioned, all those things that you mentioned, like the month, there wasn't a whole lot of big, AAA third-party games that came out this month, out in May. I mean, if you look at the top of the list, you got State of Decay 2, God of War, and Detroit Become Human, all 3 exclusive titles. So, I mean, people were gobbling up the exclusive month. May was a slow month for AAA third-party games. So, yeah, I think that played a big factor into it, man. That played a big part in people going out. And I do think you're right. I do think the community has heard many people say, oh, you guys don't have exclusives and all that stuff. You guys don't have exclusives, and everyone gets pissed. And they're like, hey, let's go out and buy this game. I want to go and pick this game, and the price point's there. And from what I understand, I've played State of Decay 2. I've played it quite a bit. I haven't done a whole lot of co-op. It sounds like this game is an absolute blast co-op. Obviously, it's a cooperative game. It's built that way, and it's a lot of fun going through there. I hope Frankie and I can actually get in there, maybe with I know JD's thinking about getting into it with Lost ODST. Maybe we can all hop in there and experience the game the way it's meant to be played cooperatively. I mean, I enjoyed what I played of it. I thought it had some potential. Graphically speaking, it's not a beautiful game at all, but the fact that that you can play it cooperatively with friends is very appealing. I think that's where we'll get the most of it, and it'll probably improve the experience overall.
I still have Game Pass. I kept it specifically for this game so I could play it when it came out. I just never did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we should definitely get on that at some point. So, but yeah, let's hop down the rest of this list, see what else stands out. We talked about God of War at number 2, Detroit Become Human at number 3, Far Cry 5 at number 4, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze at number 5, Grand Theft Auto 5 at number 6. Number 7, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. Number 8, Rainbow Six Siege, awesome. Number 9, Mario Kart 8. Number 10, NBA 2K18. At number 11, MLB The Show, still going strong. Number 12, Call of Duty World War II, followed by Super Mario Odyssey, and then The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. FIFA 18, Overwatch, Street Fighter, the 30th Anniversary Edition, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, Assassin's Creed Origins, and Monster Hunter World sticking around in that top 20, Frankie. And it's not going anywhere just yet. Guys, anything on this list that stands out to you? Frankie?
Kind of sad to see Monster Hunter down at the bottom. I know it was on sale this month, so I know that probably helped keep it on there. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, I was kind of surprised to see Detroit at number 3. Mm-hmm. I figured it would probably do a little better than God of War this month. Mm-hmm. But guess not. And Rainbow Six Siege seems like it's slowly climbing up higher on the list every month.
You got that new season out, man. They got the new map and everything, so people are getting back into it.
Wow, that's nice. And I'm also really glad to see Donkey Kong Country up at, was it number 5?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hyrule Warriors 2 is really surprising. I'm shocked that one's up as high as it is too.
Bender, did you pick up Hyrule Warriors? Is that why it's number 7?
No, I did not. I'm actually surprised by that too. I don't know why it's so high, but it's cool to see Mario Kart and hanging in there, and Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild and Monster Hunter World barely hanging on, but it's cool to see those on there.
Absolutely. Boys, any standouts to you?
Yeah, I know Detroit finished a little bit below God of War, but Detroit was the biggest release that Quanix ever had. So they were happy with the performance of that, I'm sure. So that's interesting. It just shows you how well God of War continues to sell and how well State of Decay sold for the month. That Detroit was something like, I don't know, was it 70% higher than Heavy Rain or something crazy like that? Mm-hmm. But yeah. So those games are selling well. Far Cry 5 continues to be a juggernaut here in the top 5. I'm a little bit surprised that World War II is down out of the top 10. There was a time not long ago, Brent, where you would never, ever see Call of Duty not in the top 10 games. Ever.
Right.
Yeah, hell, it was rare that it would ever be out of the top 5. Mm-hmm. So, I know Call of Duty World War II sold extremely well, but is the franchise started to lose a little bit of luster? So is what they're going to do with Black Ops and kind of completely reinvent the franchise and go in a completely different direction? Like, is this going to give it the jump start that it needs to kind of consistently stay in that top 10 or in that top 5 moving forward? So I'm curious about that. Also, seeing Street Fighter, the 30th Anniversary Collection, make the top 20. That's a very kind of niche title. I mean, that's a game that collects a bunch of old Street Fighter games and puts them together in one collection. It's marketed to a very specific audience, but to see that audience come out and get that game into the top 20 it's pretty surprising.
Mm-hmm. For myself, yeah, I'd like to see Rainbow Six Siege make another push there with the new season and the new map and all that jazz coming out. That's awesome. Impressive to see MLB The Show still going strong. in the month of May. 'Cause typically, MLB The Show is big when it launches, then it kind of quickly drops off the map because all diehard baseball fans, they pick it up and they get a day one and they're done. So MLB The Show is still lingering around. Is pretty cool. And then to see, I was kind of impressed to see Assassin's Creed Origins still in there at 19. So a lot of interest still in Assassin's Creed Origins. That game is actually really good. Frankie, did you play Tropical Freeze?
No, I picked it up though.
Did you pick it up? Okay, yeah, I did too. So we're part of the problem. We buy the games, but we don't play them. So yeah, really cool month there. A couple things about these MPDs. State of Decay 2, it was May's bestseller, obviously, but it also sold twice as many copies as its prequel, State of Decay. So obviously that was probably a reason why Microsoft decided to acquire the studio Undead Labs, because it did so well, and the fact that, despite all the negative press and the lukewarm reviews, that thing still went out to manage to capture May. So that's really cool. And then in regards to Detroit Become Human, Quantic Dream's cautionary Android tale had a terrific launch, placing third on the top sellers chart, and I believe it's also their biggest launch ever for Quantic Dream. So very, very cool to hear that. Launch month sales for Detroit Become Human represent a record high for developer Quantic Dream, with sales growth over 20% when compared to its previous launch month bestseller, Heavy Rain. So
20%, not 70.
Did I say 70?
No, I said 70 earlier. So 20%.
But still, pretty impressive for a game that I would consider very niche. It's not something a lot of people want to get into. It's more of an interactive movie with some gameplay in it. So to see that hit number 3, I still think that's pretty impressive, pretty good. I didn't think it would take out God of War because it's God of War and so much momentum behind that game. But the fact that it hit number 3, I think that goes back to say that there wasn't a whole lot of big AAA third-party games out that month. So a lot of the exclusives did well. I mean, hell, I think you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of the top 10 games are exclusives to platforms. So obviously a slow month for third-party games, and exclusives were definitely benefiting from that. So,
God of War, the number 2 best-selling game of the year now, right behind Far Cry 5. So very impressive first couple months for that game.
Oh yeah, that did really, really well. All right, a couple things PlayStation related that we want to talk about. First up is the this strange story about how it almost looks like downloads are coming to PlayStation Now. There was an article that went up with a picture that shows this right here. Somebody was playing PlayStation Now, and one of the options now appearing there is download game. Okay, so that got people talking like, wait. They're like, what is this? I mean, is this moving into like Game Pass? And we have some stories here, or a story here. An industry source has told Kotaku that downloads are coming to PlayStation Now in September. According to this source, downloads will initially be limited to PlayStation 4 titles. Similar to Netflix's download feature, if you have an active PlayStation Now subscription, you'll be able to download titles directly to your primary PlayStation and then play them offline. Kotaku says other accounts on the PlayStation will also be able to use the content. Rumors PlayStation Now is getting a download feature were first sparked earlier this week when this picture appeared that somebody could download, that the option to download a game was like showing up there. I don't think they could do it, but it was available in there. Sony has not yet confirmed on these reports, but I want to get you guys' thoughts on this because I think this is a move that Sony desperately has to make with PlayStation Now. Does anybody subscribe to this service? Like seriously, like 10% of the PlayStation community, even that.
I know Jamie was using it for a long time.
Was he really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, Jamie, you animal. But I want to get your thoughts on this, Frankie. I mean, how big would this be for PlayStation Now if they give you the ability to actually download the games as opposed to streaming them?
I have questions if that becomes a thing, because the primary reason any of us would probably use PlayStation Now would be to play PlayStation 3 games, right? I mean, I'm not subscribing to PlayStation Now to play any of the games I have sitting on my shelf.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're going to be opening up to that, it's just going to make the PS4 backwards compatible somehow? Like, how are you going to download PS3 games and play them on your PS4?
Well, they've said right now, as of right now, it's just going to be PS4 titles per the rumor. It's just going to be PS4. But if they were to add the PS3 stuff, then I guess technically that would mean that the system is somehow backwards compatible. I have no idea how they would do that.
Yeah, and again, like they said, for now, they mentioned PS4 games, but I again like PS4 games just came to that service last year, so I can't imagine that's still a huge catalog. I don't know, honestly. I know there's 600 some games in there right now, but I don't know. I'm not subscribed, so I have no idea what all's in there. But I know for me, if that becomes a thing where you can suddenly download PS3 games, I might actually consider it.
Mm-hmm. Bender, your thoughts?
I agree. I think if they made it to where you can download games, especially if they were PS3 games, I think that would make the service much more appealing. It'd be more in line with what they're doing with Xbox Game Pass, which is a good service. So yeah, I think that's hopefully that's something that they're going to be doing.
I don't think it would take much, boys. Do you think Sony would actually take PlayStation Now and tweak it to where it's almost in line with Game Pass? I mean, yeah, right now we have just PlayStation 4 games that we already own, but I can't imagine it would take very much to send them to say, hey, look, first-party title is going to be here like 2 weeks after launch or maybe on launch day. It wouldn't take that much for them to just easily tweak this to make this like Game Pass, correct?
Yeah, I mean it could very well happen. That's one of the great things about competition is it breeds things like this. It makes the console makers and these guys, like these publishers, like stay on their toes so that they're keeping up with each other. So it could very well be the thing. I don't know where Sony's position is right now in terms of the market and with just how revered and well that their first party titles typically do. I wouldn't see them making that move just yet. Maybe something down the line to like kickstart the service. Maybe they decide to do that, but right now I don't think that they would go the day and date route that Xbox is doing with Game Pass. But we'll see. I think there's a couple things with this though. So obviously that's one of the things that everybody really loves about Game Pass, the fact that you can download the game to your system and you don't have to stream it. So that would be a great feature to add the PlayStation Now. Like Frankie mentioned, if they could get PlayStation 3 games to download, like that would be awesome. And I think we're slowly going to see this service morph more towards the PlayStation 4. Like that's going to become the focus of this. And obviously the PlayStation 3 games are going to be there, but it remains to be seen if we'll be able to download them or not. I also think this goes back to the discussion we had during our E3 talks about these game streaming services and how PlayStation Now, as it's constructed right now, really was like marketed to that 1% that could take advantage of PlayStation Now and have a lag-free experience. So even if it's just ever so slight, it's that little millisecond here or there, it just throws off your gaming experience. And for them to have to figure out a way to try to get you to download your games, it just shows that game streaming is not where it needs to be right now.
Boom.
So these people that want to like get these game streaming services out there to the masses, like we are clearly not ready for this.
Right.
The infrastructure and people's ability to access high-speed downloads is just not where it needs to be in order for streaming to be a viable way to experience video gaming at this point. And I think this clearly illustrates that here with first what we saw with Game Pass and now with PlayStation. Be like, look, we're probably going to have to do this as well to give people the type of experience that they want with these games.
No, that makes total sense, and that's exactly what I was thinking when I was reading the story. I was like, man, if they were going this route, that's basically saying, look, this hasn't taken off, and the people who have picked it up haven't stuck with it. And that speaks volumes about where we are right now with cloud streaming from the cloud and all that stuff. We're just not there yet, and I don't see this being something that's just going to kick off and be ready to go for quite some time. There's just too many variables that can screw up your experience and make it an unpleasant experience where you just don't want to do it, and you're going to alienate a lot of people who can't afford the type of internet needed to really get the best experience out of this. And I don't think any of the publishers are ready to make that move.
Yeah, man. Playing games is not like watching movies. Like we talked about. There's more that goes into it. There's more that you've got to figure out. Like you can deal with some buffering in a movie. You can't deal with that stuff when you're playing a game.
Absolutely. And then the other PlayStation story I wanted to touch on really quick, and then boys, we're going to have you finish with the Death Stranding stuff because there's some really cool stuff there. But we also found out that PlayStation is going to introduce a greatest hits lineup for PlayStation 4. All these titles will be available as PlayStation hits for the price of $19.99, and we've got the list of. I think this is the starting list. Is right here. We've got Bloodborne, Drive Club, Infamous Second Son, Killzone Shadowfall, Little Big Planet 3, Ratchet and Clank, The Last of Us Remastered, Uncharted 4, Battlefield 4, Doom, Project Cars, Street Fighter 5. It looks like Yakuza Kiwami, Yakuza 0, and Metal Gear Solid 5. So.
That's the definitive collection.
Yes.
Oh, is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, excellent. So, boys, we're seeing the greatest hits return. These are obviously very popular when they did it on the PlayStation 3. What's your thoughts on this making a return for PlayStation 4 titles now?
It's a great program, so glad to see it coming back. It's always fun when they do this. Nintendo does their selects and whatnot as well. So, I mean, to be able to get a super high quality game for $19, this is great for people that are just buying the platform as well. So, when you're becoming a new PlayStation 4 owner this late in the generation, like to have this group of 12 titles or 15 titles, whatever it is, like sitting there waiting for you to go along with your system, and you can pick up a couple for not too much of an investment. But like that's awesome. So these programs are great, and when you tack on the 20% discounts that you get from some of these other promotions, like these games become very affordable, and these are some of the best experiences you can have on the system. So it's great.
Frankie, any standout titles on that list that you would recommend right away? I think I can already guess two.
There's really just one. It's Yakuza 0. So that
was
Doom, but
that was one of the ones I was going to guess. Yakuza Kiwami was the other one.
Yeah, but Kiwami's been a lot of these games have already been $20 for a really long time now. Like Doom, I know Infamous because I've been eyeing a copy at Walmart because I want to replace my physical one that I got rid of. But yeah, I mean, the $20 for Yakuza 0 is a steal. That game is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Good choice. Ben, or anything you'd recommend on this list?
Definitely Infamous Second Son, Ratchet and Clank, Uncharted 4. I mean, there's a lot of really good games on there. Little Big Planet 3 was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely worth $20 if you want to play a good Little Big Planet game. But yeah, there's a lot of pretty much all the games on there look pretty sweet, but those are the ones that I would definitely recommend.
Mm-hmm. I would recommend boys play Infamous Second Son now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How about them apples, boys?
That sounds like a great recommendation, dude. I will take that into consideration.
I appreciate it. Finally, you'll play the damn thing.
That is my favorite dead horchacho to keep beating.
All right, boys. How about we talk about a little Death Stranding, man? We had some interesting news about this come out this week.
Yeah, this was very, very interesting, man. And so, shout out to the PlayStation Bros for pointing this out. But apparently, when the and it's on the YouTube trailer when you go and watch it. But the E3 trailer for Death Stranding that Sony put up on their YouTube page actually gives us a little more insight into the game than we were initially anticipating. So there's actually a description for the trailer, and it reads as follows. From legendary game creator Hideo Kojima comes an all-new, genre-defining experience for the PlayStation 4. Besieged by death's tide at every turn, Sam Bridges must brave a world utterly transformed by the Death Stranding. Carrying the stranded remnants of the future in his hands, Sam embarks on a journey to reunite the shattered world one step at a time. What is the mystery of the Death Stranding? What will Sam discover on the road ahead? A genre-defining gameplay experience holds these answers and more. End quote from the YouTube page there. So right away, Brent, there's a little more there than we may have ever heard about the game up to this point. What do you make about this, man?
Man, again, it's hard to take what they said there and match it up with what we saw in the trailer. But some of it does sound very, very interesting, man. I'm kind of curious though. What was your thoughts? Like, what stood out to you first? Because I want to get your thoughts, and then I'm going to come back to you with it.
Yeah, I think it clearly, when they talk about the stranded remnants of the future in his hands, like I think about the baby that he's carrying. So there's something going on with that, and I think about the what's that movie? Children of Men. Is that the one with Clive Owen?
I believe so. Yes.
The one where like people couldn't get pregnant anymore. They couldn't have children. So I wonder if there's I got a little bit of that vibe, like just reading about like this dystopian future where maybe they're not able to reproduce or something like that is going on. But yeah, just reading about that, clearly the baby or whatever is encompassed in that like tube or that ball is going to be very important to the story or what Sam is trying to accomplish here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Death Stranding, that they appears to be the name of these entities that are out there that are after Sam. So yeah, clearly he's on some kind of a mission, and yeah, I'm curious to learn more, man. I like the kind of like sci-fi vibe that I'm getting from this stuff.
Uh-huh. Now, what's the secret message that we heard about that was in the trailer?
So that was in the E3 trailer as well. So Polygon reports that an image from the newest Death Stranding trailer links back to a music video for the song "Give Me an Answer." The necklace Lindsay Wagner's character is wearing bears a resemblance to Quipu, hopefully I'm saying that right, or Talking Knots, and a Russian Twitter user decoded the message to reveal the name of the music video by Low Roar. Incidentally, Kojima tweeted about Quipu last year when he visited an exhibition about the ancient civilization of the Andes. Kojima used a Low Roar song in the initial Death Stranding reveal in 2016, and used a second song from the same album in the trailer that debuted at the Game Awards in 2016. This particular music video was released last year, and director Dylan Marco Bell told Paper Mag that it would be fun to create a world where certain fans could physically enter the game Death Stranding before it came out. The video depicts 3 people being dropped off at a motel, drawing straws and entering the bathroom one at a time to find a strange device. 2 of them enter the shower where they promptly get covered in black goo, not dissimilar to the substance we've seen in the game's trailers left in the wake of the invisible creatures that surround Norman Reedus' character on the beach in the first trailer. It's not clear if the events in the video are directly related to the game's content or if the game acted solely as inspiration for it. So, just more of the Kojima mysteries hidden in these things, man.
I think that sounds awesome because that's what he does. That's what Kojima. He finds a way to like get hints in other mediums and other forms of like of entertainment that you wouldn't expect to see it. It's just that's very, very strange, but that's very, very Kojima.
Yeah. I love that kind of stuff. I love that he does this stuff. I just think it just gives him this whole unique flair about him, and his games are always mysterious, and just think of the way that he unveiled the Phantom Pain. That whole thing that went into that was just outlandish and really crazy. But yeah, I remain very, very interested in this game. I can't wait to learn more about it.
Absolutely, Frankie. Any thoughts on what we heard there?
Nah.
It's definitely gonna. I don't know. It's definitely a bizarre game. I still kind of feel like it's not anywhere near coming out, but it's cool to kind of examine these things.
Right. Absolutely. Cool. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Or you think we wrapped it up? Or you think we got everything done here?
Sure.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that's going to do it for this week's show. We had a lot of good stuff to talk about. Gentlemen, where can we find you gaming and tweeting? Mr. Boyce.
As always, Brent will be not tweeting at Piccolo930. That's where you can find me on PSN, Xbox, and Switch as well at Piccolo930. The Indie Spotlight will be here on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern right here on the YouTube channel. So if you have not, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you get the notifications, leave comments, join us for the streams, all that fun stuff.
Mr. Boyce. Mr. Holt.
You can follow me on Twitter at Bender_guitar. You can find me on PlayStation Network and Nintendo Network at me_Bender, and on Xbox Live at meBender82.
Franklin.
You can find me on Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, Nintendo Network, pretty much everywhere at Viper Strike. Spelled down below if you're watching the video version.
Right there.
He's chipping away at Starhawk.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at TheDude1979, Xbox Live, TheRealDude79, PlayStation Network, and the Nintendo Switch, TheDude79. Make sure you visit the website, www.shortpause.com. Follow us on Twitter at TheShortPause. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Google Play, or Stitcher, head over to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, write out a nice review, tell us why you love the show. If you're not ready to give us a 5-star rating, that's cool. We want to earn it. No fake 5 stars. Send us an email, podcast@shortpause.com, or hit us up in the comments on the post for this podcast on the website, www.shortpause.com. We want to hear from you. It's the only way the show will get better, and we want to make it the show that you never want to miss every single week. If you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, Mixer, or Facebook, give us a subscribe. Make sure you show up every week. We want you here Saturday nights. We want you in the comments. We want to talk to you. Lashman's in there right now. He's a taco. That's what he says. I'm a taco. Awesome. I want a taco. I'm hungry now. So thanks, Lashman. I appreciate it. But yeah, we do want to get. We want to see you here for the podcast. If you're not able to watch it, that's cool. It'll be available on demand on all the services that have it. And make sure you comment. Get involved in the discussion. We want to hear your thoughts on all the topics that we discuss. Did I get everything?
When's the show next week again?
What?
You're gonna be here on Saturday, boy.
Oh, that's right. We're still working out the details. We might do one Friday night, possibly. But if not, there will not be a show next Saturday because, Ben and I are going to go see Frankie for his wedding party, and we're going to get cray-cray. So really, really excited for that. Really looking forward to that. If we are going to do a show, we'll do it Friday night, but we'll let you guys and girls know on Twitter. We'll send it on our social media outlets. We'll let you know what the plans are for next week. If we're not Friday night, there won't be any podcast until the week after. So make sure you stay tuned for that information. But for Mr. Holt, Mr. Boyce, Mr. Ayler, I'm Brent Felsing. Thanks again for watching. Have a great night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.